Hi,
Hello?
Vincent. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. How's your day been?
It's been okay.
I have so many complaints
Why
about
so
people
many?
being mad and not doing. I don't know. It's sort of like they convert to Islam and then they hate it and they contradict themselves.
Who converted to Islam?
Well, John Kishler.
Oh, but he didn't really. He doesn't even believe the Quran came from God.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's like, what, and then he's been saying anti-Semitic things. So, and I know he converted to Judaism. So he hates everything now. He hated all the things he converted to, and and now he's talking like a white nationalist. So it doesn't really make any sense. And he's hanging out with a pagan. Um, but that's
Have
not the
fun.
only contradiction.
Well, he's not really trustworthy anyway, so.
I mean, I sort of want to trust people to be consistent in their views. I mean, I don't know what you trust him to do or be, but I just trust people to be, roughly themselves and sort of make sense when you ask them things, and when you ask them one particular question, that they're going to answer in the same way the next time. They won't have completely change their answer until you don't know why they're contradicting themselves.
Right.
But I've been talking to this anti-Semite, and it's sort of quite pathological, in that they okay. I know it's sort of kind of like a mantra. I know some people sort of pray and they say the same things like, Alhamdulillah, or whatever it is that they say. Um, and I guess with these anti-Semites, they say those fucking Jews, and that's their sort of mantra prayer, I don't think. And then, ah, okay, I met this guy, and I think, he seems educated, but there is something pathological about it, and everybody's getting in on this sort of hating Jews thing. So
For the
today we
wrong
talk.
reasons. For the wrong reasons. Everyone, oh, they're so liberal and they promote gay rights and women's rights and interracial rights and this right and that right. And, that's all what their complaints are all about is like, all this liberal stuff. And that's the wrong reason, to. Who cares if Jews are spreading that? I don't care if Jews are spreading that. I'm not going to go complain and start a war over that. So,
Yeah, but you've been accused of being an anti-Semite, yes?
well, but I'm real what, I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm anti-Jewish, but I'm real anti-Jewish, and I'm against Judaism, the religion, actually, not what a bunch of liberal, secular, non-religious Jews are doing with their life. That's not what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on the actual religion and what the religion says.
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's a kind of mistake, sorry, a confusion um, between the two. I mean, you can say that there's a real difference, but even Jude gets a bit confused. Is Judaism what Jewish people do, or and he's saying it's what Jewish people practice, and I'm saying we have to be more nuanced than this, because well, even in music, if you learn music, there's the theory and the practice. So you can know a lot of theory about, I don't know, notes and scales and whatnot, and then there's the actual playing, which you may not be any good at. So I'm saying there's always theory and practice, and and I don't think people kind of get the difference. So So what we have is this thing called Judaism, which different Jews say different things about, and then we get this other thing called Jews talking about their religion, which they can never agree on. And so my latest thing is an organized religion, and we can't trust them, to be consistent about anything any of them says about their religion, because there is no final authority. And and, and I think that is key to understanding how religion works, or even how an army works, which is the same principle, I would say, in that there is a hierarchy. So, you know, people would okay, this reminds me of what Dubin once said, and he was saying that when he was living in, I don't know, one of the Jewish neighborhoods in New York, and he was always being asked, who allowed you to do this? It's a sort of, they were asking him report who he reports to, and they have a sort of system like, even if you're a rabbi, they'll you'll be asked, well, who's your rabbi? So that'd be a kind of, I guess, buddy system, or peer review, as we would call it, right? So it's kind of like my circle of virtue idea, in that you belong. You're not completely alone. You're in some little group of circle of called the circle of virtue, and at least two other people might just say you're all right because they haven't kicked you out of their group yet, kind of thing. So you kind of have some respectability. You have some people who might vouch for you, but for Jews, they can't go beyond these little groups because they have no leader. I don't think you care. I sort of feel that nobody really cares about these things.
About not
But
having a leader.
yeah, because it means nothing can get done. It's like having a political party whose members you can never expel and don't have a leader. How can you function like that? You won't do anything. You won't get anywhere.
Well, I mean, like we said, you always say that the leader of the Muslims is the president of Iran, but I don't really buy that. I think
Well, I
any
mean, a
Muslim.
lot of Sunnis don't buy that because they think, Sunnis are heretics and schismatics and whatever. And so they won't answer my question of, well, if you're all looking sad. Oh, we haven't got a caliph. Oh, we're so sad. We must, obtain greater, you know, unity amongst the Ummah. And I said, well, it's not that hard, is it? If it has always been the case that the caliph is the most powerful Muslim leader, and then they all go quiet because and of course they would be the Sunnis. They would be Sunnis, and they can't bear to acknowledge that somebody not Sunni could be their caliph, and they go all quiet and want to change the subject. But they were the one who started looking sad about there being no caliph. But okay, I'm saying that at least the Muslims, even though they are divided, have a kind of procedure, right? They have a procedure. If they really wanted a caliph, they'd have to say, well, the caliph would have to be the most powerful Islamic republic, because it can't be, some tin pot little Islamic republic, because then nobody would accept that they are the caliph, because there's some, tin pot little country that, nobody's heard of. I mean, there's always a structure to these things. Oh yes, and then the other thing, you listen to spacers. Do you listen anonymously from time to time? and then you hear yourself being talked about. So I heard myself being talked about because, it was a bit weird because you, I was listening anonymously and I thought, right, I have something to say now. So I left and came back again, and then I was kicked out, or I thought I was, and and I thought this is really annoying. I mean, it's like I actually want to say something and they kick me out. So I listened in anonymously on my other account, and so I heard myself being talked about. And one of the things that kind of infuriated me was that, I'm just this eccentric old lady. And I said, okay, fair enough, that's what you think. And then, I'm just this harmless, eccentric old lady who must be on more than one government watch list. So it's like, at least say something about me that doesn't immediately contradict what you previously said about me. And okay, so I've been talking to a few Chinese people, and it's like they're a bit weird as well. It's like, most of them they're getting on all this sort of anti-Semitism thing, and then one of them wants to be a Jew. I was like, okay, you think it's sort of romantic and chosen and whatever, and then the next thing he said is that he's not a Zionist. And I thought, oh, I think I've almost given up with people not making sense anymore. And I can't say, oh, it's just these sort of silly white people calling themselves white nationalists. The madness seems to have spread everywhere, all over the world.
Yeah, well, things are getting really bad, and something obviously is going to happen because you can just see the rhetoric is becoming so extreme now, where it's just like getting so extreme. Obviously, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
Yes, yes, yes. So with the Jews, they're literally paralyzed into thinking the Messiah's going to come now. He's got to come, or our goose is cooked, and they want the Messiah to come because they can't answer questions anymore. Like, well, don't you all have to ingather to Israel? And they don't want to move, okay? Or even if they wanted to, they're not allowed to, because actually, the secular state of Israel, they don't want old Jews and religious Jews who won't join the army. They want secular Jews of fighting age and Jewesses of childbearing age, and that's all they're into. So, so they can't ingather even if they wanted to, the way Sal Samuels tells them to. So, and then you say, well, who's going to build your temple now that you killed all the Gazans? Somebody's got. You can't
Oh,
do
did
it.
you see? Oh, they're bringing in all the Indians. I just saw another clip of all
Yeah,
these Indians arriving in wherever it was, Israel, and they're just going to replace them with Indian labor.
yeah, yeah, and the Indians will. I mean, I know what they like. They like building shrines by the roadside, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then they take over, and then they say they own the piece of land that their shrine was on. So I guess they're going to be told, not to do it, and be given some kind of, certificate. But I think the Jews have jumped from the frying pan into the fire. So I don't think that they're getting any closer to resolution. So I was going to say that you ask them, well, how are you going to build the temple, and you get crazy answers like, oh, it's just going to descend from heaven, already built, so we don't have to worry about the logistics, and it'll just I don't know, just hover over Al Aqsa and then crush it or something. It is literally fairy tale time. And well, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the Messiah is going to come just because, people have gotten themselves so crazy that they can't even think straight. Have there been any developments in your, I don't know, your research?
No, I've just been posting old stuff up on Twitter and just going through my documents, but no, there's nothing brand new, nothing like explosive has happened.
Right. So I think yes, I was thinking about you today as I went about my business, and I thought all my propositions are okay. I don't think it's unreasonable, but then people say I'm just an eccentric old lady, but they've never debunked any of my arguments. I suppose they just think it's weird that I should be so insistent about the points I make, and possibly they don't understand what I'm saying, about ranking the Gentile religions and all that. Because, I say to these anti-Semites, it's like, look, you can take away their power by ignoring them, and so there are only two kinds of Jews. That they're going to be the secular Jews or the religious Jews, and you will have to, in your mind, separate them and put them into different compartments. And if you are yourself religious, then you wouldn't be dealing with the secular Jews. You, as a Gentile, would be just dealing with the religious Jews. I mean, this is just natural and logical, isn't it? But because most Gentiles are atheists, then obviously they'll just be talking to secular Jews, and I think that is basically the problem. So the religious Jews are marginalized as well as the religious Gentiles, and all that is required is for the religious Jews and Gentiles to get together and solve the problem by proposing. No, okay, but just by discussing what they think the problem is, right? I mean, or you could just leave it to the secular Jews and Gentiles, and they'll just proceed towards World War III. Do you worry about World War III, Vincent?
I don't know. At this point, I don't know if it doesn't come here. I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I'm starting to just like all I care is, dying in my warm bed and that's it. Like I just hope it doesn't come here. I don't have the power to stop it.
You hope war doesn't come here.
I hope World War III doesn't come to my doorstep.
Well, we don't know where it's going to break out. I mean, it could be anywhere because, the empire of America is global. And even if you don't get a nuclear war, there's, trouble in America itself. I mean, there will be civil unrest. And everything that the Biden administration does is exacerbates it. The lawfare against Trump, and also lawfare against, well, European leaders. Everybody's become the victim of lawfare, and that means everybody is going to think that there's no point going to court because we're not going to get any justice. We might as well go, straight to revolution. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go straight to revolution.
Yeah, but are the people capable of a revolution in this age?
Probably not. And the good news is that I'm not, any kind of revolutionary leader, but I think if enough people on social media would just say what they believe to be the truth and be prepared to argue about it, then um, we would be just closer to getting our problem solved. I mean, all these conversations I have had with people are just people pretending not to understand what I'm saying, or they have just poor listening skills. So I have had conversations when, well, maybe I've been, myself guilty of the I'm not really listening to what you're saying. I just want you to shut up talking so I can tell you what I want to tell you, and then I can leave, you know? And people like that are really annoying. Do you find
Yeah,
that
they
there are different conversation styles?
yeah, well, a lot of people enter these spaces and they don't want to talk about what you're talking about. They want to talk about whatever they want to talk about and then leave. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, so and if you keep doing that, then your conversations become really boring, and then I guess you don't do that well as a YouTuber or whatever. Because I think one of the pleasures of listening to a conversation is that there is development. You are responding to what I just said. I am responding to what you are saying, and there is a kind of, well, logic to it, or a drama, or some kind of satisfying resolution reached, or agreement or disagreement declared. And I am saying that obviously you have to enter into a dialogue with your enemies if you want to negotiate with them. But then, a lot of these things is, well, who do you talk to? And can you get access to them? And most people don't know who to even begin talking to. And even if they did get the chance of speaking to that person, they don't know how to address the person. Did I tell you yesterday about this really stupid woman talking to this Jew? And I guess, okay, this Jew basically has all these Gentiles who want to be no hides, and they go to him, and he's their kind of guru or whatever. And there was a silly woman from Manchester who's Catholic, and instead of calling God the God of Israel, she called him the God of Egypt. Can you believe it?
Yeah, she made a mistake. You told me.
Oh, right, right. And she said it twice, and he didn't even bother correcting her. So he's just pandering to them. And then he says all kinds of crazy things, which I find annoying. It's like, I'm sure your rabbi wouldn't agree. And then I thought, well, maybe they are telling him to spread this nonsense. Like, all Jews go to heaven. Oh yes, and all Jews have a bit of God in them. And it's like, no, you're not even supposed to think like that, because you're supposed to think that God created the universe and exists outside it. He's not, God is not pieces of human, you know. So he's just basically talking nonsense the whole time. But then the people, these dumb Gentiles just love it. They just think, he's a special magic Jew,
Hmm.
and because he, so basically, we're heading to an age of charlatanry, where people will just say, I like, so and so because, they say the things I want to hear. And people will just
Hmm.
become even more irrational and stupid and impossible to reason with, because there is no hierarchy. And so I think it's very important that people keep making the point that Judaism is not an organized religion, and basically it's been hijacked by the American Empire. Not that the American Empire is interested in Judaism, but obviously it helps if it wants to hang on to Israel and claim to protect it.
Are you tired, Claire?
I just yawned. I suppose I can talk. I sense that you are tired.
What?
I sense that you are tired.
No. Maybe a little bit,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. You're kind of eating or whatever. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm almost done.
But I'm saying really that. I mean, obviously, I think there is a solution, and it's actually capable of being done. In that all people have to do is say what they believe to be the truth, and and not just give up when somebody disagrees with them, but be prepared to argue it through, but also be prepared to concede when they have lost the argument. So, do you think there is an objective way of working out who has won the argument?
I don't know if there's an objective way, no.
I would have
Well,
thought.
unless it's pure logic, like it is pure logic. Yeah, there are certain arguments that are so obvious that you didn't know. I mean,
I
obviously,
can't hear you very well, Vincent.
yes, obviously you can to a certain degree say who won an argument because we put people in jail based on arguments and evidence. So,
Yeah, so I think you can. It's like, well, I asked you a question, and it was important that you answered it, and you didn't, and therefore I won the argument, or you know, or my plan was better than your plan, and everybody agreed. There was some kind of mechanism for working it out. And years ago, I had this thing with Jen about valid and sound arguments. Did have I discussed this with you?
no.
So basically, a valid argument is a logical argument, even if its premises are not true. So an example would be if toasters were made of gold, they would be valuable objects. So
Okay.
it's logical, but it's not true because toasters are not made of gold.
Right.
But a sound argument would be all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think arguments can be measured by, um, I mean, okay, this toasters made of gold thing. Um, you would have to argue using facts that both parties agree with, like you know, supposing, you know, I don't know, uh, toasters were made of gold, and they are valuable. So everybody, both parties would agree. But I mean, what one could say, well, it would be true if toasters were made of gold, but they're not. So your premise is wrong, right? They, there's always a premise to every argument. Like, um, let me think. Oh, I can't think of anything offhand. But um, Okay, let's do the one we always do, which is secular Quranism. It would be Jews and Gentiles would choose secular Quranism over the no-hide laws if they had to choose.
Well,
And,
no, that's,
and, and then
yeah, but
you're going to disagree, and you'll have your reasons.
yes, anyone who thinks that the punishments didn't change between Jews and Gentiles would choose the Noahide laws. Anyone who thought that um, the Jews were still God's chosen people and were here to teach the Gentiles would choose the Noahide laws. And anyone who would think that if the Noahide laws were written down, there was no need for a second revelation, then yeah, they would be a Noahide. They wouldn't go to Islam.
Yeah, but we can't prove it because it's just based on predictions, right? We can only think, I feel that they would, do whatever it is that you think that they would rather do. So you can't use predictions as evidence because it hasn't happened yet. You can only say, um, we know that people, if they were being rational, would want to avoid punishment, whether they be Jew or Gentile. And if they were forced to choose between two legal systems, they're going to choose the one that doesn't, that won't punish them as much
Well,
as the other one.
well, the only people that would choose that are idolaters and blasphemers and homosexuals, and they would say we don't want to be punished. But people who don't commit idolatry, blasphemy, or homosexuality wouldn't mind the Noahide laws.
No, but I mean, I think people would think that they would, possibly be themselves accused of all kinds of things, or know people that they're quite fond of who are gay and, adulterers, sodomites, and, liable to get into trouble, or they'd instinctively know that it would be such a horrible idea that everybody would just hate it and be really scared.
Well, people aren't scared and don't hate it, and I mean, most Christians are going to say that they're fine, and so I don't think.
No, the thing is, listen, you're just saying some. Who do you know who's actually fine about the no-hide laws?
Well, I know people who do talk about them, but I know that the only people who do care are some Christians and some pagans, but most Christians are not scared of the Noahide laws. I mean, they don't
They
think that
don't
they're.
really take it seriously. They
Well,
don't. It's so remote. They can't comprehend. How they can't imagine. It's like restoring. It's
no,
like
it's
literally
more than that. I mean, they
restoring
actually think that these are
comprehend.
beneficial. It's like, they think that it's harmless, that it's not a problem, that these laws on their face are not really a problem. And like, even I was just talking to people the other day, and they had to admit they really wouldn't care if idolaters, or they said that they would have no opinion if idolatry was made illegal. Like a lot of people feel like that. Like it's just like the idea of outlawing idolatry is not, something that's going to get them revved up. You know what I mean?
Because
They're
they
not.
don't think of themselves as idolaters,
I know that.
probably.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's why all these Christians are just saying the no idol laws are fine, because if idol worship was to be made illegal, they really wouldn't. Nobody in this world is going to go tripping over themselves to protect idol worshippers.
Or they might if they're Hindu or Buddhist because they think,
No,
oh,
well,
my
they don't think
Buddhist
they're idol
idol.
worshippers either. Hindus and Buddhists don't think they're idol worshippers either.
Okay, so they're a bit stupid and that they won't, make further inquiries. And I know a lot of people that just they don't ask obvious questions because they don't they think asking questions makes them sound stupid or something. But obviously, if people are going to introduce these laws, I'm assuming there will be lawyers who will be asking these questions. But anyway, nobody's talking about these things because nobody nobody takes religion seriously, and we're meant not to take religion seriously. And if people do, they would be they would be mocked at or um, yeah, got a call. called all kinds of names, I suppose. Fanatics, extremists. But do you see the role of religion in getting people to, I guess, obsess about these things? I'm sure
Mm.
people do wonder if God exists, and because it all becomes clear um, when they finally decide, right? If they do decide to believe and obey, then it becomes clear. But I guess if they decide God doesn't exist, then they'll have to keep making predictions of the future. If I do this, will I be successful? I don't know. Whatever. So as I was doing the dishes earlier, I was thinking of you and your attitude towards your political activism because I'm reminded of Khalid, saying he doesn't really understand your position, and I found it
It's not
difficult
that
to.
hard. Okay, it's not that. Except like people act like I invented accelerationism. Like this is just something so brand new that I came up with. I stole this from other people. It's just okay. So you're like saying, okay, there's this incoming problem, and it's going slowly, and that's not good for waking people up. So just talk about it a lot so that it accelerates. And then when it starts getting bigger, people will say, oh, okay, I see, yes, you're right, there is a problem. Instead of taking 20 years, it takes 2 years for people to wake up. That's it. It's not that hard to understand.
Okay, but I'm saying that my thing and your thing are just going to be ignored until it's given the green light by
Well, no
mainstream
heightism
media.
will soon have the green light. As soon as it reaches critical tipping point, and as soon as the Jews want it on CNN, it'll be on CNN, and then we'll deal with it then. But prior to it getting on CNN, there's a lot of groundwork that can be done. Do you think CNN is really going to negatively report on the Noahide laws and tell the whole truth about them, or do you think they're going to whitewash them and make them seem like some kind of happy paradisaic, code for all of humanity? They're not going to be CNN when they do report on the Noahide laws. It's going to be very kid gloves.
Well, I don't know how they are going to report it. I mean, they might not approve of it. Or okay, even if they talk about it, yes, people can say, "Oh, but what does it mean? Are Christians idolaters?" So I guess I do the same thing. I make sure I say a few times every day that Christians are idolaters. Um, for my kind of accelerationism, I suppose. I want to accelerate the rate at which Westerners accept that Christianity is kaput, which they already do, which is why they became liberal, and now they have to accept that liberalism is failing, which they sort of do. So the next step must be secular Quranism. But obviously, the ground has to be prepared. I mean, considering I've been doing it for so long and nobody's thought of anything, and then I hear all these people talking about the stupid elections like it even matters. Anyway, so Living the Dream asks me, am I more atheist or agnostic these days? Well, I am becoming increasingly theistic just because, I am promoting something that is supposed to come from God. So um, that's a position. I started from atheism, and then I thought agnosticism would give me the middle ground, and that would be the best place to control the arguments. But anyway, it doesn't matter. How's the therapy going?
Oh God, horrible. They ganged up on me because the group ganged up on me because, they are so, this, I hear this from everyone in all the therapy, and all the people in therapy have been brainwashed into just believing that everyone is just an island and you don't need to care what anyone thinks about you, and you don't need any outside validation or anything like that. And I was saying, no, people do need outside validation. We're human beings, we're social animals. We want to be accepted, we want to be respected, we want to be validated. When we say something is true, we want it to be believed. We have social needs as human beings. We are not islands unto ourselves. Like, we all need other people to survive. And if you need other people to survive, then yeah, you are going to care what they think about you, and you are going to look for some kind of validation from people. And this is like just too much for them to understand. And I mean, they're so like brainwashed in this hyper individualism of like, oh my God, it was. And then my therapist told me that I triggered her. She's been getting tighter with me with what I'm allowed to question her about, because we were talking about, she's Catholic, and we were talking, and I brought up, I said, well, if God chose the Jews and then turned his back on them, then God's a liar. And she said, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, blah, 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 blah.
Sorry, she was a Catholic, and you.
She's a mix between Catholic and Christian, and I don't know, she's not able to handle certain theological arguments.
Have we discussed Sheilaism?
Yeah, it's where you just mix up everything that you want. I mean, she's a Christian Sheila. She doesn't go outside Christianity, but she's non-denominational Catholic, mix between Catholic and non-denominational.
I think this must be the problem. Is it that's why everybody's so crazy and nobody can agree on anything. I think that's a problem, and I think that must be the reason why people said, right, we are a group, and we have to follow the same rules, and we have to agree that certain things are good and certain things are bad, and and here is our story, and if you don't like it, go and find a group that you like. And that's why history is so important. But then lots of people get bored with history. So she didn't want you to question what?
She got triggered by me bringing up the fact that the Jews were promised to be God's chosen people forever, but then, now they're not his chosen people. And she gets into all kinds of weird stuff. And she's like, well, I'm a Jew. And I'm like, you mean like, but she means it spiritually. She's like, spiritual Israel. And how Christians get into that, well, we're spiritual Israel now, and we are chosen, so the Jews are still chosen, like all that nonsense. It just,
Oh God. Right, and when you want it to be more, accurate and precise about your definitions, you started getting upset.
Yes.
Yeah, because ultimately we can't, there is right and wrong. We can't all be right and wrong at the same time, and then it can't all matter and not matter at the same time. And I think we are kind of driving ourselves crazy. But in what way did they gang up against you? If you don't mind telling us.
I told you they were like going after me. They were being, but I think they were just doing it to go after me, because they started getting really cynical and being like, I was like, well, validation and helping people. And then I was bringing up, well, like, they were basically saying that even when people do validate other people, they're still being selfish, and they're just looking for something for themselves. And if someone gives a homeless person $1, they're validating themselves. They're not validating the homeless person. It was just like really cynical, and just like, I was like, they were just being really cynical and just hyper individualistic, like, all of them, and like giving me, oh, well, this person made it all on their own. I'm like, oh, really? Did no one ever give them a kind word? Nobody ever handed them a pencil in class when they needed it? Like, nobody ever, 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 ever validated, helped them, said, I believe you, I believe in you, I love you. No one ever gave them a gesture of kindness their whole life. Like, you know what I mean? That's just, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, all these people are getting through life without a single helping hand from anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you that, so they're just saying even when people are being nice, they're not really being nice, and they're just being selfish, and and
Yes,
and
and,
and,
and
and
everything is up
therefore,
to, everything is you, and don't worry about validation from other people, and just be an island unto yourself, and that's it.
so
Like,
it's actually something they want to cultivate in people.
yeah, they want to cultivate. Yes, this is what they were cultivating in my therapy session. Yes,
Did you
there.
know that that was what they were trying to do?
Well, not until we had the argument about it.
But was it in the sort of small print? Like it's like you can these therapy lessons are for you to learn to be self-reliant and that kind of thing.
No, it didn't say that, but they're bitches.
Oh, well, they were mostly women.
Well, the therapist is a woman, and the other person in the room is a guy, and they were just ganging up on me.
It seems very cruel. I mean, I thought it would
Yeah,
be all so nicey. We have to be nice to each other to make our lives bearable and whatever.
no, and then they were telling me I don't get out enough because I don't see all this fucked up shit, and they're like giving me all these like testimonials of, oh yeah, and like I couldn't believe, like, I was like, my whole position, and then it got really fucked up, and I was like, oh well, if I saw someone dying on the side of the road, I would call, and they were like, oh well, it would depend, I don't know if I would call, are they a drug addict, blah 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 blah. I'm like, someone's dying on the side of the fucking road, who cares why they're dying? Call the fucking cops. Like,
Did you know them for a while already, or are they new people?
I've known them for a while.
Oh, right. So it was like they waited for today to show you this dark side of themselves.
No, no. I mean, they weren't waiting. It was just the conversation of the day. But yes, it was very dark and very, very cynical about humanity and what people do things for, and just very overly individualistic. Like, just like, yeah, you kind of do need other people in this world. And it's really hard to get through all by yourself. And and also people do care what other people think. If you didn't care what people think, you wouldn't take showers. You would just dress like a slob. You wouldn't clean your house. If you didn't care what people thought about you, you know, you would just, do
You
gross
wouldn't
and
comb your
stupid.
hair.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, just who cares what anybody thinks?
Well, it just seems very harmful, this therapy. Well, why?
I go to a very weird therapy place.
How long have you been going there?
Oh, for like 6, 7 months.
So how did you find them?
Oh, just the telephone book.
Well, I suppose that the lots of other therapy groups, or perhaps you don't need them if they're going to be like that, giving people bad advice and cultivating bad attitudes in
Yeah,
people.
they were cultivating bad advice and bad attitudes at that therapy session. I mean,
Why, I
I
hope
don't
our
know.
listeners
Well, the only
agree.
reason the only reason I kind of like it is because I don't know. They're not afraid to discuss religion, but I think my one therapist is now getting scared to discuss religion with me
Why? Why?
because it's challenging her faith too much.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, how are you going to play it? You're going to keep doing it until she kicks you out?
Well, I'm not going to stop talking about what I want to talk about. I'm not going to like. I'm the patient. I should be able to talk about whatever I want to talk about.
Excellent attitude to take. Yeah, I mean, that was what I'm trying to say, earlier, that, we'll just have to keep saying what's on our minds and just argue it through. But obviously, if we're wrong, we have to concede because it's on our mind for a reason, right? It's on our mind for a reason. And,
Yeah.
and and it's just crazy to push it to the back of our minds like it didn't matter because, you know, some kind of warning is being made for people to suddenly start talking about religion and start getting nervous about it. Do you find that people are getting more religious now or talking about it more?
Yes, but in a dumb way. Only the Christians. I mean, I guess the Muslims are always talking about religion, so that's not big difference. And I don't count. There's more of them in the West now, and so they're just talking about religion. But I think they always were. But the religion that I hear being spoken of from the Christian side is not. It's like memes of Jesus and just like anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. I mean, it's not theology, okay? It's not like I don't feel like, this is seminary work that's coming out of the modern Christian religious revival. It's just kind of like Christ is king. I hate FAGs. Like, it's like very, very shallow and very uh, it's not very thick propaganda that's coming out. It's not like, you know, I mean, do
Yeah,
you
I know
see?
what you mean. They are so dumb, and you can just sort of fell them with a question because they literally don't know how to answer, and then they'll get angry, you know, and it's like, but if your entire position can be defeated by not being able to answer certain questions, then I'm afraid you haven't got much there at all. And it's like it should be obvious now that it didn't work before, and the only reason why Christianity used to work was because people were forbidden to ask questions under pain of being, burnt at the stake, ostracized, or something. But I mean, these Jews and Muslims, at least they have a narrative and they have a rule, rules of like, we have to think of God like this, we can't think of him like that. And I think all these rules allows them to do this thing called moral reasoning about, well, should I do this or shouldn't I? It gives them their principles. And then, and the most important principle is obviously, well, if I do this thing and I get killed, hmm, what should I do? And of course, the correct answer is if it's a matter of principle, then obviously you have to do it, even though you get punished.
Hmm.
Well, and the Jews too. I mean, the ones who believe, they have this reasoning process that um, comes with it, and Christians can't do it because they haven't got any rules to fight against. It's sort of like I don't know. Okay, maybe this is a good analogy, or it might make some sort of sense. It's like the Jew or the Muslim. is somebody in a pool, okay, that has water, and they can swim by pushing, they're kicking their legs and, moving their arms to move forward because there is something called resistance. The water resists them and they sort of push against the water and move themselves forward. And Christians have nothing. That they're in this empty pool. They can't do anything. Because there's nothing for them to fix themselves on. Because if you even ask them what Christian principles are, you'd be met with silence. And so they used to rely on their government being sort of halfway sane and, supporting marriage and family values until their government stopped doing that. And I say, all the problems we have now is because of that. Transgenderism and everybody being, non-parent. It can be attributed to what happened 50 years ago in the swinging 60s, the sex revolution, and the consequences are just being played out now.
Yes. Are you getting tired, Claire?
No, I'm just yawn. Sometimes you yawn when you're not really that sleepy. I guess maybe I need more air in my room or something. I'm just thinking of yawning makes me yawn.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I am gonna go. We've been on for about an hour. Is that okay? Unless you want to
Thank
wait.
you for coming.
Do you want to wait for me for a little while or no?
Oh, do you have to go away and come back?
Yeah, if you give me about 15 minutes.
Okay, I can witter on about what's on my mind.
Okay, I'll come back.
All right.
All right, bye.
So I can talk to the chat. So I thought that was quite a good analogy about Jews and Muslims being in a pool with water, so they can push themselves forward using the water in the pool, while Christians just are basically it being in an empty pool and they can't get themselves anywhere because they have no principles. Aren't I a genius? Aren't I a genius? I'm going to listen to a message. Yeah, it's so funny. Sometimes I get people popping up and say, "Remember me?" And I thought, well, yes and no, because there are people. Well, I talk to a lot of people, obviously, and I don't remember all their details because there's so many of them. Added to that is the fact that they change their names because they're scared of being discovered, I suppose. So, yeah, somebody was saying, how do you know it was me? And I thought, well, it says you are you, and the Telegram what's it. So I think what happens is people change their name in their Telegram account, but I still have them under whatever name it was that I I used them when they were my contact. So that's how I keep track of who they are. So I actually don't know what his latest username is, and it's like, stop doing that, and stop uh, having these my my messages will self-destruct in a day, a week, or whatever. Why are you so scared? You should define them and say what you believe to be the truth. I mean, I'm not telling you to never change your mind, even when faced with facts and arguments. I'm saying, if you believe in something enough, you have to see it through. You have to test your idea to destruction, and you have to stop retreating and ignoring the subject. So it's my fond hope that when enough people do what they the min when they do the minimum of what I think they should be doing, which is to say what they believe to be the truth and be prepared to argue it to the end, then we will have a more rational world and have people who at least know their own minds, or who will concede when their arguments have been debunked by truth, logic, and morality. And one of the most important things we need to talk about are, well, it is philosophy, really. It's like, well, what is justice? What is love? What is posterity? What is the national interest? All these ideas we need to discuss in order to make sense of our lives and decide what to do for the best. And obviously, the most important thing we need to decide is whether to obey the law when we don't agree with it, and what will happen to us if we get caught breaking it. Will anything happen? Will anybody notice? And so I am saying we should think of these things. We should think these things through carefully. And Vincent is back. Welcome back, Vincent.
Hi.
I didn't hear what you said. I heard you say hi, but I don't know what you're saying. Maybe you need to fix your mic or whatever.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you. But yes, I'm triggering, as I said, I'm triggering my therapist, and I think that, that's annoying that your therapist has certain blocks to questioning, right? Because of their religious practice. They feel as though they're not strong enough to deal with certain kinds of things.
What do you see your therapist for anyway?
For depression.
I used to. What will not. Okay, I really think if you did decide to believe in God, you wouldn't be depressed. It's just so simple, but you won't for reasons of pride and whatever.
No, not because of pride, because I don't know. I'm not going to make up things about God that if I would very, very much believe in God, if God sent me a sign, of course I would believe in God.
What sort of sign would you want?
Well, something speak to me. So why not put a voice in my head and say, "Hi, this is God"? But even then, I would think it might be a hallucination. But I mean, maybe if he presented himself before me or did something or said, yes, this is my book. I did write the Quran. Let me just put my seal of approval on it. There you go. And then I would say, okay, well, obviously you exist. But even then I would question. I'd be like, well, I don't know if there's another God, or are you a space alien? I mean, I would be very skeptical.
Okay, Vincent, I did finish a story about me thinking of you as I was doing the dishes, and it was this: you you justify revenge, and and obviously, if you're going to be compassionate, you're forgiving, you have to forgive your enemies, and because. And I'm sure you understand the reasoning. If we were, always retaliating and never forgave anybody for the wrongs they commit against us, then you know uh, they will not forgive us either. So the principle of reciprocity requires that even if we are wronged, we have to forgive people or try to, unless it's really so bad that we can't, in order to sort of protect ourselves, because we might inadvertently do bad things and want to be forgiven. So, and if we start thinking in this way, we are kind of inching towards the Abrahamic God, aren't we? And I think,
Wait, but no, you don't need the Abrahamic God to teach you forgiveness. Forgiveness is a free value that anyone can pick up off the street and incorporate into their ideology. No, I don't need the Abrahamic God to believe in forgiveness.
okay, but to take this subject a little further, Jews are supposed to believe that everything that has ever happened because God willed it. And there is this verse in the book of Isaiah that said God created good and evil. How do you feel about that verse?
Well, I think that makes it why so many people have a problem with the Abrahamic God, because now it's only one God. So not only is everything good that happened to you from God, everything that's bad that happened to you is from God. So you might hate God because God didn't give you a very good life. Whereas in polytheism, you can say, okay, well, this God helped me during the good times, that bad God helped me during the bad times. Or if God can't give me what it wants, maybe God's not powerful enough, or that God's not powerful enough, or it's not the right God for the job, or something like that. It's more soothing than, okay, well, this one God who's supposed to be totally good, even though he gave me a bad life, I'm supposed to be grateful for it, and I can't blame him. Whereas if you're a polytheist, you could blame Hades, you could blame the moon.
Behold, I have come to deliver a sign for Vincent Bruno.
Hello,
Why have you
Stephen.
forsaken me, Vincent?
I have not. Yeah, no, I haven't forsaken God. God never revealed itself to me like
He's
that.
not a genie in a lamp.
Okay,
Hang
well,
on.
who said that? Why? Who? Why did this God make? Why is if? Why
You
did you do
asked
this?
for a sign, Vincent, and I have appeared.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. This is a. This
I
is
am
about.
here.
This is
Do
about.
not forsake the Lord thy God.
How are you, Stephen?
Hello, I'm good. How are you two? What's up?
Not much.
Same
Not
old,
much is.
same old.
Yeah. Not much is going on though. Yeah. Not much is going on. It's the same conversation, or at least parts or different bits of it, or different spins on it. But
Yeah,
I
Claire
thought,
is like she's like one of those Scientologist people, isn't she? Who just gets you on the street, brings you in, sits you down, and then you can't get out until you've agreed to an entire program of indoctrination.
You think I'm indoctrinating Vincent, do you?
I think you're doing your best to, yes.
Yeah, I was just saying,
Or at
since
least
you're
she admitted
here,
it.
well, welcome to my indoctrination class. So I think you heard the thing I was saying to Vincent. It's like,
Not really.
okay,
I think we should talk
okay,
about Vincent's mental health. That was more exciting than your nonsense.
yeah. I was just saying, if he believed in God, he wouldn't be depressed. There you go.
no,
And
there's
then you
plenty of that's
arrived.
That's not true. There's plenty of people who do believe in God who are depressed, and plenty of people who don't believe in God who are not depressed. It's not a magic pill like that. There's depressed. There's people who are very religious who kill themselves, and there's people who live very happy lives and they're not religious at all, and so it has nothing to do with that.
Well, I suppose there's no objective way of measuring it. Well, somebody was saying to me that they thought people kill themselves less in under monarchy or something ridiculous like that, and I thought, well, I hope proper records were being kept, because we don't know, do we? You know, do we? I think I think suicide is high enough because it isn't forbidden, and it's actually being encouraged by our government.
Well, God forbid. Vincent, do you have a job currently? Are you
Yeah.
employed? Conops is asking.
Yes, I am.
Yes, he does.
So you're employed. How long have you been employed for? And is it full time?
It's almost full time. It's like
Okay.
35 hours a
Yeah,
week.
that's enough.
Yeah, but
Is
it's
it?
at night. It's at night.
Oh, right. And what type of work is it? Manual labor or what?
Management.
Management. Oh. Is it boring? Is it fulfilling?
No, it's not fulfilling.
Oh dear.
What would you like to do, Vincent?
At this point, I just want to have enough money to just do a lot of drugs. That's what I want to do.
Oh my God.
It's so nihilistic.
What about Uber Eats? You can drive. Why don't you do?
I'd
Is
rather
there-
do my job than drive around Uber Eats. That would be less money too.
But it gets you out. You're meeting new people all the time. Think of it, Vincent. If
No,
the
I don't
gay
want to change my
population is as
job.
high, if the gay population is as high as you say it is, then something like 1 in every 20 or 1 in every 10 doors that you knock on, you could have an opportunity.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna get an Uber Eats job. I'm fine with my job as it is.
Okay.
What about a call center? Have you worked in a call center?
Very
Ugh.
briefly, I don't want to do that. Why do you want me to change my job?
Well, for me, mental health starts with exercise. Do you exercise? Are you up and about exercising often?
Hardly. I'm very bad at exercising.
So some kind of physical job would help, I think.
Well, my job's physical enough. It's not like my job's not horribly physical, but it's
Management isn't physical. I
not.
mean,
Well,
come on.
yeah, I just because I'm a manager doesn't mean I don't run daily activities.
What are the staff like? Are they terrible?
No.
No. Okay. How did you get a job in management
I had
without
one
working your way up?
I had one before. I had another managerial position before this.
Okay.
What is your ideal job, Vincent? Off the top of your head.
I wanted to be a scientist, and I should have done it.
Porn
and-
star, isn't it? We've heard this before.
Well, I should have been a scientist or a porn star, or both. I should have been a scientist porn star. Yes, that's exactly what I should have been, and I fucked up both of those paths and avenues for myself.
A scientist porn star. What the heck is that?
Yes, I would have been a scientist and a porn star mixed together, the same thing, at the same time.
You'd experiment with human subjects and have sex with them in all kinds of ways.
Yes, something drastic like that would have been preferable. You know, I'm very angry at myself for ruining my prospects, but
I thought you'd say you'd want a radio show with me.
well, maybe now at this point in my life, yes, that would be nice to have some kind of talk show or you know, I would like to run a Noah Hyde News Network that just like played all different kinds of weird Noah Hyde shit all day long and like guests and political figures and, discussion of it and the news from that angle, you know what I mean? And reviewing things from that angle and bringing up adjacent topics that are close to it and how it all fits in together and stuff like that. That would be fun.
Well, you could do that. You could just start a new channel and call it that No Hype News Network and just start doing it.
Yeah, but
It's all in a net, isn't it?
I would want to, I would need a little bit of startup, in order to make it look nice with nice, make it not just me on a YouTube screen. You want something like Alex Jones has or something, right? Don't you want something like little studio quality? Maybe not full Alex Jones studio like that, but, and also I would have to have people I can bring on and have on, and I wouldn't want just like some random person that has no followers. If I was going to launch a No Hype News Network, I would want, people with followers, people with big names and things like that.
I think it'd be fun to just cross-examine people. Like, do you want to be a righteous Gentile? And I think it'd be quite fun.
Oh, do you want to be a righteous Gentile?
Why, what do you think? It'd just be so much fun to cross-examining them.
The thing is, though, what Claire's trying to set you up for here isn't something that would be successful. Why don't you start a channel that's like the Gay News Network or something that would actually generate a following? No, but
yeah.
I'm trying to look, I don't want him to do it, but I'm trying to think of something that there's an actual market for, that Vincent could do, that could generate popularity, that wouldn't get shut down within a few weeks, that there's
Nobody shut
something he
us
could
down.
do
Nobody cares about No
that he would
Hype
find.
laws.
Yes, but eventually, if you start getting popular with the kind of crap that you two talk about, and especially you, Claire, wanting to talk about Jews and Muslims and stuff all the time, then it's eventually going to be considered anti-Semitic, and it's going to, probably rightly so, it's going to get shut down. But if Vincent did something that he cared about, like promoting gay stuff, God forbid, then he could do that. He could probably get an audience very quickly. That would be fulfilling. He'd
I know,
enjoy
but
doing it.
the point about me is that I find the stuff that no one else is talking about that is still worthy of news, though. I'm my whole shtick is that, okay, look, I have like 30 blogs, all of which are on esoteric subjects that don't get tons of hits, but all of together, like if I add up all my blogs together, do I have a lot of readers? Yes. Nobody has the information out there that I have. If I could go out and repeat what everyone else is saying and all the same talking points and do what everyone else wants to hear, and people just want to hear the same simple phrases over and over and over. And that's just not me. I'm more like, okay, what's going on that people aren't looking at? What are people not talking about? What is this? Why is it, you know what I mean? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not looking to be like everybody else. And the mainstream is the mainstream for a reason, because they're not talking about anything unusual or strange or different or difficult. They're just talking about nonsense, the same, everything that everyone else is talking about. Why do you want me to be a clone?
Well, no, it's being smart. Like, if your real worry is this threat from no-hidism, then like you have to think smart, think intelligently about how you could have the most influence. And so perhaps the best way to influence people would be through the back door, no pun intended, okay, which would be to start something popular. You could start something popular, gain an audience, and then slowly drip feed information.
I don't have time for that. I have too many like important pieces of information that I need to post and get out there. I don't have time to put on a show and write a show that's a funny show and put all my time and energy into comedy acts and things like that in order to drop one piece of breadcrumb information. I don't have time for that.
Yes, but how will you ever isn't what you want to do like wake up the gays to the Noahides? Isn't this?
Okay, well, I'll do it. I'm doing it the way I want to do it. Look, like Jehovah's Witnesses don't care that 99% of people don't want their magazines. They make it for the 1% of the population that do. I do want to grow beyond their capacity, yes, but at the same time, like, you know, they don't water down their information and turn it into, you know, they don't. Okay, Jehovah's Witnesses don't bring bands into their kingdom halls in order to attract people like other Christians do. It's just not their MO, and that's not the type of people they're looking for anyway. They're looking for like hardcore militant, theologically like really dead serious people. They're not looking for someone who needs a rock band in church in order to learn about Jesus Christ. They want like someone who's actually dead serious and wants to read like 25 books on God in a year. You know, I'm not looking for people that, you know, it's just not my target audience. And if I can only reach 1% of the population, so be it. Let it mutate. Let someone else become the big, you know, why can't one of my followers be one of the people that starts like, you know, the funny Noahide show, and it's all funniness except for 1% Noahide, and that's it. Like, let someone else do that.
Okay, fair enough. Look, I'm in a similar way. I could have started like a fitness or channel or something, or I should have done like something to do with Muay Thai or kickboxing like 5 years ago instead of talking to Claire Core, but we both kind of ended up down the same dead end. So in a way,
Well, should to talk about things that are on our minds.
Yes, but all I'm trying to give Vincent the vision of is
You
if
can't do it.
5
You
years
just
ago,
get back
if
to the
5
normal
years ago I'd have
cycles.
done that, I'd now have 100,000 subscribers, and I could like drop one red pill a month, just like on a Muay Thai video, and have like 1 billion times the influence that I'm having now.
And now you're stuck with becoming secular Quranists.
Oh my god.
What else? How else are you going? Look, I know these two people. I think it's John and Vaughn, and they get so many trolls because they make such outrageous claims. So basically, Vaughn is this pagan who goes on about the spirits of Native Americans in Kentucky or something, and John Gischler is basically, you know, this all over the place person who is converted from Catholicism to Judaism to Islam, and I don't know. I mean, they just attract trolls like flies, and I think the reason why they do attract so many people is because people just want to throw rocks at them. And that's enough. You want hate watchers. If you can't make people love you, then well, you know, you can make do with hate watchers. I mean that's how most people function.
Yes,
Here,
but
anyway.
Claire, it's a viable method, okay? But you've been trying that now for 10 years, and there's like 3 people here watching, and 3 of them are
But
you, me,
because
and
I need
Vincent.
other people who will give their names prepared to say the secular Quranists. Vincent is close to it. Or at least Vincent gives his real name.
Vincent isn't fucking close to it at all. The last thing that Vincent wants is Sharia law, Claire
No.
Core. I mean,
I
come
can
off
cure,
it.
I
What
can
the fuck
cure
are you?
his
What
depression,
planet are you
and
living
he
on?
knows I can. And I'm
No, you
actually his.
can't. By
I
making him
can
believe in a sky
his
daddy, you can't do that.
therapist,
You
his
can't make him believe in it.
preferred therapist.
You can't make him believe in it.
Yeah,
He doesn't
no,
want
I'm
to.
saying
He's too sensible for that.
no. It's just that he refuses to make the inference that if there was a creation, there must have been a creator. And it's like, yes, you can say, okay, there was a creator, but he's dead now. All kinds of he can think of all kinds of ways to get out of it. And I was just hoping that you
No,
might be in the
it's
mood.
it's a stupid statement to say if there
No,
was a
it's not
creation,
because
there
how
must be
can
a
you say
creator, because you're no, because the implication is that you consider it to be a creation, therefore it must have a creator, but it's just the wrong description.
well, how would you describe it then?
This is the biggest question in the universe. Okay,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
the ultimate
exactly. And you're
question.
refusing to
So
make up
there,
your mind when obviously it has clear
yeah, but
implications for
okay, Claire.
everything else.
Yeah, but the inference goes like this: if every cause has to have like a creator, if every creation has to have a creator, then where did the creator come from? And you're going to say, oh,
It's the
but this one
first
didn't have one.
cause.
Well, then the ours doesn't have to have one. If one doesn't have to have one, the other doesn't have to have one either.
You're just being awkward because you don't want to admit that you're wrong.
No, that's true. That's why I couldn't be a Jehovah's Witness, because they couldn't answer my question. Their question was, God
Exactly.
is always there. And I said that makes no sense, and they said, oh well.
Yeah, the uncaused first cause was
Yeah, well, that makes no sense.
Aquinas. That was centuries ago.
That makes no sense.
Why not?
If the first cause didn't have to have a
obviously, I just
cause, then ours
nothing can
doesn't
come
have to
out of
either.
nothing.
Does it?
Nothing
Something cannot
needs
come
a
out of
cause.
nothing.
If the first cause didn't need a cause, then nothing needs a cause. There's no need for a cause.
No, you must have heard of the expression infinite regression.
No, you're just saying, well, I found something that doesn't have a cause, and I'm just saying, well, that doesn't make any sense because everything else needs a cause. So it doesn't make sense, Claire. I'm never going to believe it. It doesn't make
Uncaused
sense.
first cause. You don't understand the concept of the uncaused first cause.
How was it uncaused? How was it uncaused?
Because logically, there must have been something to have begun it all.
So
And
it has,
therefore, it must
so
have been
God
the
had no
uncaused
beginning.
first
So
cause.
not only is God uncaused, God had no beginning, which is a double whammy of just irrational.
You just choose not to. You don't want to believe in it, and therefore you choose not to
No,
make
I
the
don't.
inference.
It doesn't. Excuse me. I was very young when I said this doesn't make sense. I didn't have any like ulterior motives for denying God. I just said it didn't make sense.
Okay, but now, did whoever you were talking to start talking about the uncaused first cause?
No, they just told me they said they said I just had to accept it. They said I
It's just an excuse for not having an answer, Claire. Come on.
Yeah, they just
No,
told
the
me I
answer
had.
is the uncaused first cause.
Well, then ours doesn't have to have a cause. If there's already been something without a cause, then ours doesn't have to either.
No. You could start well, how
No,
can
you're not
we
going
be
to
sure?
make.
How do we know if this God is omnipotent and still living and
Look,
omniscient and
here's the
perfectly
thing. Here's the
moral? You
thing.
could
I'm not
possibly
denying.
go
I'm not
progress,
denying there could be a.
but you can't
I'm not
even get
denying.
past that stage.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying there could be a creator of our universe, and we one day find
Thank
it,
you.
or something. Right? But I too, with Vincent, disagree with this like ultimate premise that God has to be the uncaused first cause, and that explains everything. I think if we find it, then he had to have come from somewhere too.
But you just said that you could accept that there was a creator. So why did you just contradict yourself?
No, I
Like
could
like
accept it if there was any evidence of it, but there isn't. All it is
they would
like a
see
logical
it.
trick
It's
that you.
deductive. Do you understand deductive reasoning? It's the
But I
opposite
don't
of
agree with
empirical.
it. I don't agree with the deduction.
Okay, so have you got a better theory? You haven't.
Well, science, okay, science is equally as unexplanative as the God hypothesis. They just say everything came from a fucking black hole. So, and nobody knows what came before that. That's just equally as uninformative as God. God started it by clicking his fingers, or the black hole started it by going bang. Neither
Yeah. Well,
has
I
an
mean,
answer for what came
obviously,
before.
if you did believe in God, it's just so easy. Like, oh, Big
There's
Bang,
no
science,
evidence of a God,
no.
though, Claire. This is the
Therefore, God
problem.
must
There's
have
no
caused it.
evidence of it. There's no
No,
evidence of one. You
make an
rely.
inference. You make the inference. If there was a creator, the creation, there must have been a creator. And then you can question the attributes of God, like, well, maybe he's not that nice, maybe he doesn't care about us, so I just wish people could get to that stage. But basically, if there was a creation, there must have been a creator, and that creator was God. And you can't wiggle out of that, and you're getting annoyed. And you don't want to ask the next questions.
No, simply provide Vincent, for instance, any evidence, any tangible evidence, other than your requiring
No,
him to believe in your stupid deductive logic.
what sort of
That doesn't make
evidence
sense.
would you accept anyway? If you're
Any
determined to
provide
reject,
any evidence. Provide any evidence that there is a
arguments,
God.
I can, I, I
Provide
can,
any.
I can give arguments for making the
No, just
inference.
provide some empirical evidence,
How can you
which you
provide
can't obviously.
empirical evidence when
Well, if
when
there's no evidence for
it's already
something, then
accepted that
somebody
God
then
has no physical substance?
it requires a leap of faith, and then it's all conjecture,
No, no, no,
and
no.
somebody like Vincent just can't
Matter
bring
of making an
himself to do
inference.
that.
It is just a matter of making an inference. Now, have you heard of this thing called theodicy?
So tiresome.
Have you heard of theodicy, either of you?
No.
Because that is supposed to be the strongest argument against the existence of God, the problem of evil.
Well, it does. If you have
Well,
polytheistic gods, there is no problem of evil.
Yeah, but you
again,
can't
it's based on a
prove that these
stupid assumption.
polytheistic gods exist.
You can't
It's
prove that you're
based on a
one
dumb
God.
assumption anyway that God is good.
If you have a polytheistic outlet, there is no problem of good and evil. You don't have this problem. There's good gods and there's bad gods. You don't have this, oh, how could God be evil? Well, it wasn't that God, or or the gods are imperfect, or it was another God, or your God wasn't powerful enough, or whatever. But it's not that God is doing this to you but you have to think it's good anyway. You're starving, but you have to think that this is a good God doing this to you. You don't have to think like that in polytheism.
No, but the point is that the Jews think of that, and they're still around. So,
Okay, well, I know, but they've also had a lot of hard times and lots of people dislike them. And right now, things are not going that well for them
yeah,
either.
and they can't escape. That's the thing. They were chosen to be made an example of. So it's not nice to be made an example of, and they, they either stay Jews and continue to be made an example of, or well, what are they supposed to convert to? I mean, it's obvious, but they don't want to do it. And the thing is, if they all converted to Islam, they will still be God's chosen people, because people go, oh, where did all the Jews go? And somebody says, oh, they all converted to Islam. Oh, so that's where they went. We'll go there too. That is the narrative that I'm impressing upon them that they should follow. And they have no arguments either. So I'm basically saying, they were chosen by God in order to become Muslim. That is their problem. Yeah, and they can't fight it. They can't fight it.
Islam is the dumbest piece of
You
shit
can't win a single argument.
possible. It's the dumbest
You can't win a
crap.
single
The book
argument.
is dog shit. It's
You
written
can't win
like
an argument.
a
All, you,
retard
all you're
wrote
going to
it.
say
It's
is, oh,
absolute
no,
dog shit.
well,
It doesn't make sense. It's so
it does. It
stupid.
does. I've just told you the
So
story
stupid.
and you
It was
can't even.
obviously concocted by Jews on the Arabian Peninsula to tame the savages of the desert. I mean, come off it. Get a grip. That is
Well,
obviously
it
where
gave you
it came from.
Christianity.
They looked around, they saw these people rape and pillage. We need to get a grip of them and tell them about this fucking one God from above. But they're not going to listen to us because they're our enemies. So let's go and subvert them and pretend like we've got an angel from above to say, behold, I am the Lord Allah. Aha! I come with fire and brimstone.
Yeah, that's a good story. And most people will accept it.
Ugh. But you can't expect somebody like Vincent to accept it. So it's time to give up.
No, he did. He did. He
I
did
know why
before, so.
Vincent is depressed. It's from having to listen to you every fucking other day.
No, he's depressed
Witter
because of
on
his
about this
terrible
shit.
therapists. His terrible therapists were being nihilistic, and it shocked and depressed him that they were being so nihilistic and uncaring
Very
about.
nihilistic.
And people are just getting worse and
Are they
evil
woke,
and
Vincent?
depraved.
What?
Are your therapists and the other people in there woke? Are they liberal lefties?
Kind of. Sometimes, yes.
Does it seep through into like their solutions?
Tiny bit sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, not horrible, but yes.
I'd find it insufferable. That's why I could never go to therapy.
What, group therapy or just any old therapy?
Well, I couldn't be honest. For one, to go there and explain like what I hate about the world.
Claire, I'm going to be back in a few minutes, okay?
Okay. Well, wouldn't it be a great pleasure to tell people exactly what you think? I mean, it's just so silly. You pay for a therapist,
Yeah, but
and you're still
I'd get
afraid.
arrested. I'd get
What?
reported. I'd get reported if I told somebody professionally what I honestly thought.
Well, I guess you would just have to write a diary or something.
Not because there's anything bad about it, just for the record, for security services listening, just because society is so fucking woke and flips out at the slightest bit of illiberalism.
I think I get a kick out of telling people exactly what I think because Khaled's got this sort of liberal the Quran class, so I rode up at this one on Thursday, and actually, it was just Khaled and me talking, and but anyway, it's like, so what? So what if they don't like it? As long as I'm being understood, I feel I've got it off my chest, and I feel better for it. And I
Yeah.
encourage everybody to do it. Obviously, you mustn't say things that are going to get you, accused of hate speech. But if you just talk in terms of ideas and stop blaming individuals and groups, you should be okay. Yeah.
Look, I'm not even a good racist. Like I've told you, because I've an affinity for Asians and stuff. Went and
No, it's just the sheer numbers, isn't it? It's just that they're everywhere. What's going on? Even the Asians are saying, what's happening? You know, the story of this. Well, today somebody was saying, oh, there's this Chinese lady who's joined Reform and she's so gung ho about. Have you heard this one?
Yeah. No, a friend of mine though was just sharing with me his reform candidate. is
Well, they're
literally
all
like
Asian or something. They can't stand it
Is it
anymore
a
either.
Hindu wearing a turban, or it might be a Sikh. That's his reform candidate.
Yeah, everybody's getting in on white nationalism
Yeah.
because they can't stand it anymore either.
Yeah. JMK in the chat wants you to answer about this thing. What is it? Sunan Abi Dawud 2121. I've pulled it up and it reads, "The messenger of Allah married me when I was 7 years old." The narrator Suleiman said, or 6 years. He had intercourse with me when I was 9 years old. God forbid. That's in a fucking holy book.
It's not in a holy book, it's the hadith. And anyway, the Quran doesn't
Well,
tell you to do these things. And anyway, in the state of Delaware, the age of consent was
absolutely
was 7.
condemn that. Wow.
As long as you know that in the state of Delaware, the age of consent was actually 7 in 1870.
Yeah, condemn them too.
Yeah, well. So people have different ideas of the age of consent. Europeans changed their minds. But since we're all living longer, there's no hurry, is there?
Yeah, but we don't have it in our literal fucking holy book.
Child betrothals was a European practice.
Yeah, some wacko fucking town in America somewhere in the backwaters of America didn't get around to updating their laws, or whatever. Oh, whoops! We never forgot to put an age of consent on the books. Here it is now, or something like that. But it's not
Well,
at
the
least in.
consent is
It's
kind
not
of
at
saying
least
an age of
the
fornication.
the literal man that 90% of Muslims name their firstborn after wasn't pegging a 9-year-old.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
How you doing,
Mujahid.
Claire?
I'm
You
doing
good?
well.
How are you doing, James? Is it James or Stephen? I think so. Or
It's
both.
Stephen,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
Okay, yeah.
JJ.
What is Claire? I'm obviously multitasking. I'm preoccupied with other stuff, so I might go in and out of the stream, or I might have to lock off as well. So
Okay,
it's going to be a proper quick one.
okay.
How's
How
the
have you
evening
been?
today? Good.
Yeah, we've been talking to people being really annoying, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see the stream's been going over like coming up to 2 hours now. 1 hour 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's just therapy basically. And
Okay,
I just been saying
therapy.
to people that the more you express your view, your true views, the better you'll feel, and you should try and do it. But obviously, not get yourself into trouble over hate speech. So that's my advice to people.
Yeah, these hate speeches are just ridiculous, to be honest. Obviously, there is hate, don't get me wrong, but obviously now it's like I think they're changing the definition, as they go along, making it up as well, and obviously they're clamping down on conservative viewpoints and values, and soon they're going to consider if you hold certain conservative viewpoints or values, they're going to consider that to be extreme as well. Even your religious convictions, if you don't agree with, that certain people are not women because they have men genitalia, then it's going to become problematic for
But we're just a
people.
laughing stock of the
Well,
world.
well, to
Yeah.
be fair, Muslims are reaping what they've sowed because we have many of this due to minoritarian politics, which pressured for these kinds of hate speech laws. And now it's coming to bite Muslims in the ass because they're now saying, whoa, it's infringing on my conservative views. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, obviously, Stephen, I don't care. People want to dress up the way they like. That's entirely up to them. But you can't fault police people. That's my point. If a person has a religious conviction that this is not allowed, as long as I'm not impinging on others, yeah, then you can't criminalize me just because I believe something. Like, it's just ridiculous. And what you're talking about, I mean, it's not just about, it's liberalism. It's the West has adopted this leftist Marxist liberal outlook of the whole world, and they're trying to dilute any form of culture, tradition, identity, all of that. I mean, Muslims aren't a part of that at all.
Well, why do they vote for it when they come here? Look at 90% of Muslims vote for
Okay,
the
that
left
Stephen,
in Western
that's actually a
countries.
good question. That's actually a good question. And growing up, me personally, I've always been a Labour person. I mean, growing up, being a Labour
There you
person.
go.
Yeah, and I tell you why is that? Because in the early 90s, I had to literally fight Combat 18, yeah, BNP, National Front. Yeah, I've got even scars, war scars, that, like,
Yeah,
literally,
I get it. It was
yeah,
expedient for you to do that, to fight against you, like right, what you
yeah,
considered to be
yeah.
sentiments against immigration and things
No,
like
but
that.
at
But it's
that time,
coming to
it was like, Stephen. At that time, it wasn't about immigration. It was about getting your head bloody kicked in. Do you see? It was
Packy
about
bashing.
packy bashing. It was about all of that. It was That's the kind of wars I had to fight. It was nothing about uncontrolled immigration. In fact, I believe in controlled immigration. Believe it or not, I even voted for Brexit. So I'm a person who, is deeply concerned about this country, and even I kind of consider myself as a nationalist in some ways. Not, but again, I know it's just quite ironic as well. I say this because obviously I had a lot of, run-ins with with I would say the far right or people on the right who wants to bloody kick my head in. Yeah, and obviously ever since a youngster, a teenager, I had a fascination in them about why they want to kick my head in. Do you see? Um, so at that time, obviously, we was voting Labour, but it wasn't madness like this. I'm talking about LGBTQ plus craziness. About everything becoming woke. It was nothing like that in the early 90s at all. But thankfully that is over now, and now we have different obstacles and different challenges.
And I think we can all agree because I think, immigrants are also terrified of just sort of assimilating and disappearing into the country that they've just moved to. They also want to keep their identity, and the only way to keep their identity is to respect the institution of marriage. And hopefully, white people will just love their race so much that they see the point of marrying each other and having white
Yeah.
children.
See, what is, Stephen, like back in the 90s, it wasn't a case of, oh, you Muslims are coming and you got this alien culture, whatever, and therefore we want to kick your heads in because actually you don't believe in marriage, you don't believe in children, you don't believe in the nuclear family, you guys are fornicators, you guys are adulterers, you guys are sodomites, and therefore we need to kick your head in. It was nothing like that. It was, oh, you're a different color, we're going to kick your head in. See, it was about that. It was nothing based upon principles or values. Yeah. In fact, like for example, I always say the Abrahamic faiths, whether you're Jew, Christian, or Muslim, we hold shared values and morals because we get our values and morals from our scripture, and they're very much similar in terms of the Old Testament prophets. Because that's where we derive and deduce our values from and our morals from. Yeah. So all the
Yeah.
Abrahamic faiths, they believe in marriage. All the Abrahamic faith, they basically say fornication is sin, adultery is sin, sodomy is sin, and we believe in all of those values. So we are very much alike.
Well,
So
I'm sure they were mean to people of their own race too. They were mean to the Irish, right?
yeah,
So I don't, it's like whoever they can pick on, they like to kick around just because they can, because they're the majority. And yeah,
Well, I get it. I get it. I get it. And I don't condone people going around and kicking people's heads in just for racial issues and things like that. But I'm just saying, you reaped what we're reaping now. Decades of this kind of minoritarian politics that has morphed now into wokery, and
well, Stephen, like
it's
for
a nightmare.
example, I'm certainly like in my constituency, I'm certainly not gonna vote for BNP. I'm certainly not gonna vote for National Front because these guys are going for my blood, and now we've got other
No,
people. They're going for my
I
would you
accept
soul.
that.
vote reform?
Sorry.
Would you vote reform?
I do like some of Reform's policy. I must say, I do. Like, for example, clear. I do believe we need to, control immigration. This is very important. I mean, like, if you look at all of our, frontline services, they're at the moment they're collapsing. literally collapsing because consecutive governments, it's not immigrants' fault, by the way, as well. Consecutive governments have failed to build the institutions that we need. Yeah. So every single year we've got net migration, or I don't know, 700,000, something like that, 600,000, I think, yeah, something like that. And we're bringing all of these people in. Yeah. They all need schools. They all need primary schools, secondary schools. They need doctors. They need surgery. We need to, and we don't have the infrastructure for it at all. And it's at breaking point. Yeah. So that's why we do have to control immigration without any doubt. Yeah. Because or otherwise this state will collapse. Literally. Because me growing up, I remember if I wanted a doctor's appointment, I could literally get it the next day. Yeah. Or 2 days later. Now I'll be lucky if I can get a doctor's appointment with in a month. And that's just ridiculous. And now we're even fighting for, for our kids to go to school. Yeah, there's no space. So I am like on these issues on the right as well.
I get it. The country's shittier because of it all, and the numbers are a problem, and that. But for you, this is like a structural problem and a problem about infrastructure and things like that. That can be fixed. For me, my country's disappearing, and it's unrecognizable to how it used to be before, and that is something that can like that. That is something that once it's gone, I can never get it back. You can always go and visit like Pakistan and something, and
No, I was born and raised here.
and find a.
Now listen, I was born and raised here.
You can go somewhere and find a homogenous community that looks like you and your people and your origins. Mine is disappearing, and once it's gone, it's gone.
But yeah, I do sympathise with what you're saying, and I get it. I understand. No one wants to be a minority in their own ancestral homeland. That's understandable. But what I'm saying, it's not just infrastructure. It's basically who we're bringing into this country. These people are unvetted. We don't know who these people are. We don't know if they're criminals, if they're rapists. They could be anyone. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is a big problem as well. And we do have issues with certain migrants coming over and doing certain criminal. Again, I don't want to generalize, but it does happen to be some of them. Yeah, but people who were born in this country, raised in this country, gone through the education system, they've got the same aspiration as you, Stephen. They've got the same, everything, whether it's anxieties, whether it's, getting onto, the housing market or getting yourself a good job. We have the same kind of worries, same kind of aspiration for our children as well. The people that have gone through the education system in this country, I would say they're literally the same as you, Stephen. You may beg to differ, but like I said, even like, for example, even when I went on holiday in Egypt, obviously I come from, my heritage is from South Asia, but again, born and raised in this country. And when I went to Egypt, there was a lad with me, English man, Anglo-Saxon Brit, and I got on with him more, than my fellow Egyptians, so-called, they're Egyptians, but they were Muslims. I got on with him more because obviously we had more things in common. We spoke the same language, etc. But I understand what you mean. Like you might think that you might just want to live in a country which is all white, and I do get it in the sense that, like, if I put myself in your shoe and I just say, for example, I lived in India and a lot of people were coming over and like literally, they're not taking over, but coming over, and not with tanks or anything. Well, that's what happened to South Asia. They came with, their military might, occupied it, usurped it, raped, pillaged it, and so on. But even if they did just come over and we invited them over and things were changing, obviously I would probably have an issue with it. But if they was not Muslims, that's it. But if they were Muslims, I won't have an issue with it at all, because obviously a Muslim to another Muslim is we're brothers. It doesn't matter what color you are, pink, blue, green, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Do you see?
There's a lot of ethnic tension in Pakistan, isn't there?
Well, at the moment,
And all Muslims,
at the moment, the military junta is in power, and obviously Imran Khan is behind bars, and obviously there's a lot of instability in Pakistan at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. By the way, my heritage is not from Pakistan anyway, but it's from that area.
Yes, you've got a female prime minister now in Bangladesh.
Yes,
Right.
yes, there is a female. There's always been a
And
female prime minister. It's either Khalida or what's the other one's name? Hasina. Yeah, at the moment it's Hasina, and obviously she's put the opposition behind bars. Yeah, and they've had a couple of months ago, a few months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, they had an election. It was just like a kangaroo election that they had because there was no opposition. The whole of the opposition was behind bars.
so here's a question for you then, Abu Majid. Right then, if we continue at the pace that we're going, and like we're gradually bringing over like the India and Pakistan and Bangladesh or whatever, and that region of the world in various different quantities.
Yeah.
So if we continue at the rate we do, then in a few generations, our population is effectively going to be made up of those populations. At what point does our country become like entirely culturally and governmentally just a replication of like the shithole country over there? You know, it's if we just
And do
if we
you know that
transport the
the Israelis
population, we
are
become that
importing it?
country, don't we?
No, to be honest, like again, I don't really agree with your analysis there in terms of considering those countries. Depends which country you're talking about. But I don't believe they are shitholes, in that context. Perhaps there are parts of that country which are shitholes, yeah. But
Well,
I'm
they're not
telling you,
considered first world countries, are they?
yeah, but I'm telling you, the people are generally, very, hospitable. They're very nice, kind, generous, and they're civilized as well. Again, especially the people who are educated there are very civilized. Yeah, but my problem is we bringing these migrants in, and we don't exactly know who we're bringing in. Yeah, are they civilized people? Are they educated people, or are they people like literally come out of prison? I don't know, or they live in somewhere in the ghettos or somewhere in those countries. And I do agree with you, Stephen. It is a problem, yeah, and that's why we need controlled immigration. The people that are coming to this country, they should be vetted. We should make sure that they haven't got no criminal records or criminal past. And obviously, if they are skilled, if they've got something that we need, or perhaps if a loved one's bringing them over, then that's okay. Because what is, Stephen, like, it's unfortunate. It's again, I don't want to keep on bashing Britain, but it's the people here and in the West, they're the ones who started globalization in the first place. And they started globalization by going to people's countries, colonizing it, usurping their resources, raping their resources, and that's what they
Oh,
did.
come on,
No,
dude.
but that's what the British Empire
Come
did.
on.
That's
Yeah,
why they
yeah,
come here.
and
Oh,
that's why we
come
went to
on.
Iraq, and
I'm
that's
not
why
going
we
to
went
listen
to.
to this shit about the British Empire. The British Empire benefited everywhere where it went. Yes,
No, I don't think
it
so.
was violent at times and stuff,
Oh
but in
my God.
general, it benefited the areas.
No,
We
won't
did
say
bring
that. They won't say
Anyway,
that.
civilization
No,
and
my
benefited
ancestors
infrastructure.
won't say
whoever,
that.
but you know.
We-
Okay, we meant to
Everybody's
differ, but I'm
better
telling you,
for the
as
British
someone
Empire.
whose heritage is from there, no one said it benefited us. In fact, the trains that they made was to steal the resources from that land. That's why the trains were built. But the point is this: I understand that Islam did also. It was a conquering empire, but we didn't go like Islam did not go to other people's country to rape or usurp. They just went with La ilaha
Oh,
illallah.
come off it.
No. That's what they did. They went with La ilaha illallah.
Oh, my
They went
God.
to the people's country to spread the religion of Islam. In fact, the Prophet
The Ottoman
sallallahu alaihi
Empire, the Ottoman
no.
Empire was expansive and was
But what
one
if
of
I
the
told you,
biggest
like for
slave
example,
traders in the world. And what they did with their male slaves is they cut the bollocks off so that they couldn't reproduce.
the thing is, I'm telling you, under Islam, their main goal was not to go and cause a genocide or do a so-called great replacement like what's happened in Canada and the Americas and Australia. That was literally a genocide and the
Doesn't the
great
No,
Quran
replacement.
no,
start?
actually,
Doesn't the Quran start
Mujahid is
out by
just saying
talking about?
if the
Doesn't the Quran
Anglo-Saxon
start
Empire
by
was
ethnic
run
cleansing
according
of the Arabian Peninsula? Isn't that
No,
part of
no
it?
one was ethnically
Kicking the
cleansed.
Jews out.
This is nonsense. No one was ethnically cleansed. Yeah, at all.
Didn't
Even in
didn't
the
they kick
conquest
the
of
Jews
Mecca.
out of the Arabian Peninsula?
Oh no! First of all,
Forcibly convert them and kick the ones out
no.
who
There's
wouldn't do it?
there's no such thing as forced conversion. Allah says in the Quran, "La
Well,
ikrah
it
fi
is,
din."
unless you're going to get your head chopped off.
No, I'm telling you. Okay, so Stephen, I'm giving you verses. I've given you scripture in the Quran. It categorically, freedom of religion is categorically enshrined in the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, "La ikrah fi din." There is no compulsion in religion. Those who want to believe, let them believe. Those who want to disbelieve,
Doesn't
let
it
them
start
disbelieve.
with Muhammad watching 300 Jews get their head chopped off?
No, no. Again, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. You're talking about Khaybar. Again, so what was the details regarding that? What was the constitution of Medina? Tell me about the
Is
constitution.
this not
See,
the story? Whether it's in the book or not, is this not the
well,
early
it's not in the
history of
Quran. It's not in the
Islam?
Quran. You're talking about historical events that took place. It's not in the Quran.
So Islam
You're
was
talking about,
conquering and kicking the Jews out of the Arabian
no, it
Peninsula, wasn't
wasn't.
it?
It wasn't. What happened was, again, briefly tell, because again, clearly you don't know what happened in Medina. You don't know the story. You're taking bits out, and again, which are inaccurate. Yeah,
I'd just
and
own
making
it,
your own
dude, if I
story
were
up.
you. I mean, if it was your history, own it. Don't
Yeah.
own
So
it.
let me
I'm
tell
not
you
gonna,
about it, Stephen. So let me tell you about it, Stephen.
I'd probably
So
respect it.
yeah. So what happened? Again, this is not part of the Quran. This is in our historical record, which is called the Hadith literature. What happened was when the Prophet Islam made hijrah, migration to Medina. Yeah, there were basically tribes of Jewish people. All of them
Yeah.
agreed that he would be a leader, etc. And we had something called the Constitution of Medina. And under the Constitution of Medina, the Aus and the Khandak and the tribes of the Jewish people, they all came together and said that they are one community. Yeah, and they said that they're going to stick up for each other, and if the Arab pagans basically attack, they will attack them back, and basically, in other words, they would not sell each other out. Yeah, that was the deal. Yeah, and what happened was, there was 4 tribes initially. 2 of those tribes were treacherous. They start conspiring with the pagans. Yeah, against the Muslims. Yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said to them, "Look, what you're doing. Yeah. We made a deal. You're breaking the treaty of the Constitution of Medina. So what happened is they were banished. These 2 tribes were banished. Yeah, and there was another 2 tribes left, and one of them, yeah, basically what again went behind the back of the Muslims and start conspiring with the pagan Arabs, and they started to fight, and that was the Battle of the Trench. They started to fight against the Muslims, yeah, and because they committed treason and sedition, therefore they were basically judged for treason and sedition, those fighting men. And the judgment that was given to them was not even the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It was a person called Muad ibn Sa'd. Muad ibn Sa'd was a companion of Banu Khurayba, which is that tribe, which is the Jewish tribe. Yeah, and he was an old time friend of them, and basically they basically respected him. They liked him, but obviously he became a Muslim, and he was an ally of them from the past. And they said, "Look, we will surrender, yeah, as long as you get Muad ibn Sa'd to judge amongst us. Yes, we committed treason, we admit this, we've done all of this, but we want Muad ibn Sa'd to judge us." Yeah. Then the Prophet agreed. He said, "Okay, no problem. If you," and basically Muad ibn Sa'd gave the judgment for their treason that they should be executed, and therefore they were executed. Only the fighting men, only those who've participated in the war. And this is not in the Quran, by the way. This is in the Hadith literature. But generally, what you're saying that we force people to convert to Islam, this is completely forbidden in Islam. You cannot force anyone into Islam because Allah says in the Quran, "La ikra fid din," there is no compulsion in religion. And
Well, it
also we
sounds
have the
like
scripture, "Lakum dinukum waliyadin," to you your religion and to me my religion. It categorically also says in the Quran that those who want to believe, let them believe, and those who want to disbelieve, let them disbelieve. So how can Muslims force people into accepting Islam when God Almighty in the Quran has said they have a right to disbelieve if they want choose to disbelieve. Even like I've had arguments with Vincent here regarding he's saying no, they should believe, and if they don't believe, you should execute them like the Jews do. Why don't you do that, you Muslims? You are soft, you're woke, you're liberal. So I even have issues.
So what
with,
about the conquering? What about then the Ottoman Empire, which conquered Constantinople, for instance? Then I mean,
Okay,
come
okay.
on.
So, for example, us conquering, yes. First of
Yeah.
all, you need to understand we're talking about the 7th century. Yeah, during that time, you had the Byzantine Empire, which was the Christian, and you had the Persian Empire, which was obviously it's Iran now. Prior to Islam, the Persian Empire and the Byzantine Empire was constantly at loggerheads. They were fighting each other for literally centuries. And as you know, at that time, the Byzantine Empire was Christendom, meaning it was the head of Christianity, which was the Hagia
Yeah.
Sophia church, which they had. Yeah. And
Yep.
what happened was
Yep.
obviously Islam came in between both of them. It was a time of empires. And at that time, it's either you fight and you conquer or you be conquered.
Oh,
That was
so you're making it.
no, but
Look,
that's
we
what it
can
was.
rewrite
No,
all
no, no, you
histories
can't
all
use
like this, can't
presentism.
we?
But Stephen, come on. You have to be fair. You have to go back to the 7th
Just
century.
own it. You'd be owning our history. We sacked Constantinople. We
Okay,
conquered
okay,
it.
but
You know,
let me tell you,
be proud.
The Muslims did not do what the Byzantines did or the Persians did. Yeah. So what happened was when Islam became powerful, yeah, but its main concept was not to actually go and conquer. Its main concept was to remove all the impediments and the obstacle because Islam says that you have to spread the message of Islam. Yeah. Now, for Muslims to spread the message of Islam in, say, for example, the Byzantia or Persia, obviously you got empires there. They won't let you to do that. So basically, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, after his death, the companions they wrote letters to these kings, said to them, look, accept.
They wrote a strongly worded letter. Look, why don't you become a Muslim? Is that what you're telling me?
Become a Muslim, yeah, or we're gonna come and spread Islam, and if you stop us, we'll fight you, yeah, yeah, or basically,
Well, at least you owned it in the end.
no,
It was a
or
strongly worded letter
or
backed by the
basically you keep
sword.
whatever you want, no problem, and you pay the jizya, and you come under our protection, and we make
Yeah.
sure all your places of worship, your wealth, your treasures, your life, your dignity, your honor, your life, your blood, everything will be protected by the state, and you become a citizen of the Islamic Empire, which we did, and that's why we had a vast empire from all the way to China, all the way to Europe, Portugal, and Spain. Yeah, and there was Christian, Muslims, and Jews living in a pluralistic society all throughout that landmass. Yeah, and
That's why the Hagia Sophia got turned into a mosque, isn't it?
okay, let me tell you. See, again, you need to go and finger that. Initially, me personally, I was actually against that, what happened. But looking at, again, me personally, I don't know if you know all the facts regarding about the Hagia Sophia, but I heard that there is some evidence to say
I'm going to
that
guess
the
you came to a
Christians-
pro-Muslim
that the
view on
Christians,
this.
after it was conquered, they sold it. Yeah, and there are some documents. In fact, Erdogan, he got at some documents saying that it was actually sold to them. Yeah, because let me tell you, in Islam, see, the reason I was initially against it is because I know that was a church, and Islamically, we are not allowed to take over places of worship. In fact,
What about the Dome of the Rock?
What do you mean? What about the Dome of the Rock?
Isn't that built on a Jewish thing?
No, it was completely demolished. So when the Muslims went
Right.
there during the time of Omar, yeah, that whole area was a scrapyard, a scrap place.
Right.
In
Okay.
fact,
Well, I don't know about that one, but
yeah, but
I know
I'm
about the
telling
one
you,
in.
so I'm educating you, Stephen, on that one. So when Umar bin Khattab, which was basically, the second Caliph, he went there. The Christians were there. He goes, "Where are the Jews?" He goes, "Well, we killed most of them and we exiled the rest of them." He goes, "This cannot happen. They need to be here." And he told one of his thingy to bring back 70 Jewish families so that a Jewish peasant must be there. See, we've always been tolerant. We've always been tolerant, and then what happened? He said, where was the Temple Mount? And they took him to the Temple Mount. It was a heap yard. He goes, "How can you do this?" Yeah, and imagine this guy's a Khalifa. He's one of the probably the most powerfulest man in the face of the earth at that present time. Yeah, he got on his knees, including his companions, and they start to clean that area. He started to clean the area. And guess what happened? The Christians said to them, "Come with us and pray in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre." Yeah. Omar said, look, I would love to pray in there, but I cannot. If I pray in there, the Muslims in the future are going to claim it for themselves. But thank you for that offer. So look, these people were people of great wisdom, mercy, and justice. That's what I would say. And what happened, and on that area, obviously, then the Masjid al-Aqsa was built, and the Dome of the Rock was after built under the control. But that area was completely empty. Yeah. But going back to the Hagia Sophia, yeah, initially, like I said, I was against it. So when the Muslims did take over Constantinople, they shouldn't have taken over the church. Yeah. Now there is there's three things in Islamic law. Islamic law is that basically what normally happens is if a city says, look, we give up, we're not going to fight you, yeah, then everything is protected. You can't literally touch anything. But if the Muslims have to literally fight, and that's under Hanafi jurisprudence, I don't really agree with this, but there is a thingy for that, is if they have to fight, then they can take things, yeah? And even though I don't follow this particular opinion, yeah, I was against this, but recently when Erdogan turned it into a mosque, I was against it, but I heard on the news and one of their channels that he brought up documents from the vault showing that the Christians actually the Muslims taking over that area. The Christian actually sold it to them. There was actually a transaction.
Yeah,
And
well, I don't know. I can refute
so,
it. I
so
can.
again, I can't even fully comment on that, and I admit that because obviously I haven't examined those documents, Stephen.
No.
I haven't actually examined. But the point being, my friend, is Islam's always purpose was to not expand. In the sense by conquering,
Look,
usurping.
I'm sure you want to
invading.
put a rosy spin on it, but look,
No, but that's
we
the
all
history.
know that ancient
No.
empires were violent
You're
and
more than welcome
bloody.
to go and research it yourself, yeah, and check it out. But, Islam's
Just
main
look, come on, you've just been spouted like a fucking Gatling gun, all this. But listen, I'm sure you have a rosy, positive opinion about the history of Islam and stuff, but I'm sure it just isn't all,
hasn't always been
you know,
rosy, though, my
unicorns
friend.
and rainbows and deals and
we don't
everything
do
being sold and being
unicorns. That's a
fed.
bit,
Yeah, but whatever. I'm sure that, you
I'm
know,
not into unicorns.
in 800 AD or whatever, that they weren't just sat around the campfire singing "Kumbaya" and
No,
stuff.
of course
It was
not.
pretty
They
bloody,
fought jihad.
violent.
No doubt about it. There were too much obstacles from the message, being conveyed to people. So they had to fight. And as long as basically, so that's the reason why Muslims went out, is to spread the message of Islam. But if for example, that message is being spread like via internet and people can go there and there's no need for jihad in that sense, offensive jihad. There's two types of jihad, offensive and defensive in Islam. So we're talking about the offensive has to also be done with the leader of the Muslims. Do you see? And and also I was going to say as well, when Muslims did take over land, they said the tax that you give, like even the Muslims, or the tax that you get, like the zakat, loads of people became Muslims in that area. They said, look, we don't want the tax coming back to the headquarters of the Islamic State. We want you to give your tax to your own people, meaning zakat. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said in a authentic hadith, the best zakat, meaning charity zakat, or the tax, is the one that you give to your own family members or your own people. So again, the money and the wealth would stayed in that location. Like, for example, when the British went to India, 150 years, they took 43 trillion. Something like that. It was crazy, yeah. Because prior to that, there was Shah Jahan, yeah. We had
Yeah, there was nothing there, dude. There was nothing fucking there. There's, you know, we built the place up. We built the infrastructure. We gave them civilization. We gave them the English language. We brought them up from being just people shitting in the street to actually having something to, you know, a place to actually exist with infrastructure and, you know.
Sorry, I have to go for a bit now.
But I mean,
All right.
so the Anglo-Saxon Empire would be better run on Quranic principles.
Oh,
don't you
fucking
think?
hell, Claire.
Yes, of course.
No,
It's
not
better
at
than
all.
this work nonsense. I'm
Not
sure you
at
would
all.
agree. Whatever you think is wrong, it would be better than
Look,
what's going on now.
God love that guy, whatever his name is, who was just here a minute ago. But I don't want my
Mujahid.
country to have to be fucking dealing with all this shit.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
because
just
you
want
don't have a
England to
religion.
remain English. Is that
Yeah,
so
okay,
much?
woulda, coulda,
Is that
shoulda.
so much
Things
to
change.
expect?
Yes, because if you don't have a religion,
Yes.
it's like not having an immune system. And this was what happened to you when you had your eye off the ball, so to speak. And this is what happened. So basically, you need a religion that supports marriage, and now you dare not even say that. As Vincent and well, we were talking about it earlier. You can't even say things that would have been regarded as normal
Look,
and respectable
look,
by our parents and grandparents.
look. If we
And
adopt
it's all your fault.
your,
It's all your
if we
fault.
adopt your Quran light, then all we're going to be doing is waving the white flag to more
And
Abu
what are you going to do?
Madubadis
You're going to
to
become
come
pagan?
over here. Okay,
Well,
that's all it's going to do.
to
They're
make the
going.
best
They're
of things.
everywhere around the world. They're going to be going. Oh my God! Look, the United Kingdom has just accepted, even if it's just like like stupid cat lady's version of the Quran, a version of the fucking Quran. Let's go! It's open season to the UK. Let's go!
Well, sometimes if you can't beat them, you have to join them.
I
And
don't want to join
Americans said
them.
it. I know, but
I
we
don't want
don't
to
always
join them.
what we want. If
There's
we
like a
want,
billion Muslims out there in their own countries. I would love to go and visit one of them one day, have a look around, look at their wacky architecture and the curtains that they all wear as they walk around, and their wives in bin bags, and I'm sure it would be a wonderful holiday. But I just want to be able to come home and do my own thing in my own country with my own people that I've known
you're just
all
asking
of my life
England.
too. Once England is gone, it's gone.
There'll still be people in it, and that's what we have to plan for. We
They'll
have to
all
plan
be
for the
brown.
future. And you're basically saying, I give up. I'm not going
And
to
once
marry.
they're
I'm not
all
going to stay
brown,
independent.
then it's over.
No,
Just going
no,
to
no,
look.
no.
It's
This
just
is
going to look like
you won't
Islamabad.
turn brown. You won't turn
And as soon
brown.
as it looks
You
like
become Muslim.
Islamabad, it's going to feel like Islamabad. It's going to be run like Islamabad. It's going to be as corrupt as Islamabad. It's going to be as shitty as Islamabad, as crowded, as smelly, dirty. And then everybody will want to fuck off once the country's ruined.
So you're just going to let it all fall down around your ears. Talk about a can-do attitude.
I am the diversity candidate here. Okay. I am the one that wants diversity to remain. I want there to be English people in the future. I want in 200 years' time, I want there still to be people like me, people like you, people like Abu Madubada here, and I want them all to exist. So I am the pro-diversity candidate. You are and Abu Badr is a pro, just like one blob candidate. One amorphous blob, all bending over and sticking our asses in the air to Allah.
Well, you white people need to find each other and marry each other and have white children. And I just don't see how, if your government doesn't support marriage, you're going to be able to do it as well as the other groups. And you know it. You sort of have to stay together for the children and marry before having them, and it's a very basic, easy rule to remember once you understand how it all works. And you it seems that you would rather die than admit that this is a problem.
Anyway, what happened to Vincent? Where's he gone?
I probably got bored with all that stuff.
Yeah, that guy was like a Gatling gun. God love him. God love him for being, so passionate about,
Well, his therapy is not
making up that.
working.
No, I mean that guy who just came in here who was like a Gatling
He's
gun
very knowledgeable.
about Islam. I mean, God love him, but
Well, he does have a lot of knowledge. So, and curiously, I met him through Vincent. Considering we live in the same
I'm not
city.
speaking about his knowledge. I don't know because I can't verify any of that shit. It sounded like a very one-sided story, but just the fact that either he believes it or he's willing to spout it, and just be so pro his own side.
Well,
God love it. God
isn't it a
love him
bit
for that.
touching in a way to believe that you really are the good guys? I mean, I guess the problem with Westerners is that they don't. It's like they know they're not the good guys, and it doesn't help our mental health.
No, what it is it's altruism, Claire. It's the thing that Jared Taylor pointed out. Our flaw is altruism. That we care for others. We care for the other way, way too much. This is our fatal flaw. It's our Achilles heel.
You
And
just let
other
your women
groups...
you let your women
Just
take
shut up a
over.
minute. Shut up a minute. Other people aren't like this. They don't have this flaw, this Achilles heel. Abu Badabad here, who was just in here a minute ago, doesn't have that flaw. He looks at his own history of head chopping and conquest and comes up with an excuse for every single part of it. It was, he can sell it like it was kumbaya around the campfire and rainbows and all just perfectly amenable, wonderful, and just as an excuse for every single part of it. We, on the other hand,
What is
are
there to
self-critical,
excuse?
and open our arms to the world and say we are so sorry because we love you. We love all of you just as equally as our own children. In fact, come in, and we'll give you the food out of our children's mouths.
That's because you let your women take over, and women just take that attitude of being Lady Bountiful, and you know what's happened. It's not that you let your women take over, and they want to play Lady Bountiful at your
Tell you what,
expense.
no other countries are like this to
Yes, because
foreigners apart from the West.
nobody let their women take over in this ridiculous
There's
degree.
no way that when I was in Thailand I could get away with any of this shit. They don't even allow you to buy a house in Thailand if you're a foreigner, for instance.
Yeah, because Western countries are the economic zones of America.
Actually,
I mean that is what has happened, and it's all part of being in the EU and NATO and Europe having a war and losing all its power and influence and having the Americans take over, and you don't understand that.
I'm gonna go. So it was good
Okay.
chatting.
See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Later.
Hello, Abu Mujahid. I wanted
can you
to
hear me,
ask you
Claire?
about the caliph.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Excellent. Okay, because it's quite strange. I've got no option to mute my mic, so that's why for some reason that option's gone here from here.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can't mute yourself. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. That button's gone. I don't know. I might need to come back, go out and come back in. But anyway, I'll carry on now. Yeah, sorry, I had to, deal with a couple of things.
It's a busy time of year for you.
Yeah, it is, especially weekends.
I wanted to. There's been a few discussions about Islamic unity, about the Ummah, and the question of the caliph. They go, oh, if only we had a caliph,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, how was the caliph chosen? That was what I wanted to ask you.
So classically, the caliph would be chosen by a shura, a body of people. They're called Ahlil Halli wal Akli. Ahlil Halli wal Ak is the people of influence, and those people got sway and got great amount of influence. They're the people who would stand in a shura, a committee, and they would choose the caliph based upon his qualification and if he's able to do the job.
Did he have a fixed term or anything like that? Or
No. So
Caleb?
classically, it wasn't. It wasn't. So it would he would rule up until his demise, or he perhaps steps down. But I don't think they stepped down. There was a precedence of that, and Allah knows best regarding that. But normally, that caliph would rule up until he dies, or unless he steps down and appoints someone. But generally, again, Ahlil Halli wal Ak, again, the people of influence, they're the ones who would be a part of this committee. And these people would be perhaps low noblemen, tribal leaders, military leaders, there will be scholars, there will be people of influence. But there is, like I said, the idea of the shura there, which is a form of voting. And the Prophet ﷺ, even after that, we have something called the bayah, which is the pledge of allegiance. So even the caliph, those Ahlul Halli wal Aqd would elect, if you want to call it the electoral college in the United States. You know, you have votes, then you have the electoral college, don't you, in the
Hmm.
United States? So
Hmm.
this Ahlul Halli wal Aqd is something like that. If you want to, that's the best way of kind of describing it. They will choose the actual caliph, but then the people have to give the pledge of allegiance as well. Um, and that is a form of vote as well. Like people would give their pledge of allegiance to the new caliph. That
Were they
obviously they
all
would have.
chosen like that,
So even throughout history, that wasn't the case because obviously we had, lots of infighting, which was very unfortunate. Even after that, we had, like, for example, after um, Ali's reign, we had, basically we had Muawiyah, and then we had tensions between his son, which was Yazid, and then we had, and that's where the Shias come from, and then we had like Hassan and Hussein, and there was infighting regarding that, and there was fighting between Ali and Muawiyah, who was another companion. There was great, they call it a time of great fitna, which fitna meaning trial and tribulation in the Muslim
mhm.
Ummah, because at that time there was a lot of dissent, and there was a lot of infighting, unfortunately. And this is why we have the Shias as well today, because initially they were a political movement that broke off because of politics, but they're more of a political and theological group now than before, if that makes sense.
Yes. So I was saying, if Muslims wanted a caliph, they'd have to, you know, choose one, right? And I would have thought I mean, the caliphate would be the most powerful Islamic republic, wouldn't it?
I guess
I mean,
so, but
there's definitely Iran. I
the
just don't
problem,
understand what the
yeah.
problem is.
Yeah, see, I'm going to come to that in a second because, like, you know, I have some issues. Obviously, the ideal model would be we have a righteous person like Salahuddin Ayyubi, yeah, someone who's not scared to die, someone, a real man, a scholar, a pen with one hand and a sword in another hand, and a person of justice, upright standing morality, never will sell you out, but there's an absolutely righteous person, man. I don't think there's anyone that exists like that. That's the problem, and this is what I have an issue with the issue of the caliph or the so-called caliphate is because it seems to me everyone's corrupt. Everyone's, they're doing for something for worldly gains, or they can't be bothered. They're not like real men of the past. Yeah, that they were true men of conviction, integrity, and they're willing to put it all on the line. And they will literally start wars to defend Muslims as well. We don't have that because the main idea of a caliphate or a caliph is someone who protects the ummah. someone who safeguards the ummah and protects the ummah, and the ummah fight behind him. Yeah. And I don't think these people exist at this moment, because these despotic rulers at the moment we have, they're more too concerned. These people were literally sleeping on their floor and praying at night. Do you see? And they were like weeping to God, fearing that they're not doing justice to people. But we have leaders today, they're too busy with their golden toilets.
But surely you can't be a caliph if you're a king. So that's the Gulf kingdoms out, right?
Yeah. No kingdoms, no kingdom. But caliph is not
Yeah,
a
and Turkey can't be it because it's part of, well, it's a secular state, so it can't be Indonesia, it can't be Afghanistan.
Okay, so what I was going to say, Claire, regarding that, so that caliph concept, I don't know, Allah knows best. It's only probably when the Mahdi comes we might have a true one, because remember I said there's an authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, he said after Khilafur Rashidin. Khilafur Rashidin means caliphate according to the prophetic teaching.
The
Yeah,
rightly guided caliph, the
yeah, the
Rashidun.
rightly guided caliph. After that time, there will be kingship, and after that time would be tyrannical kingship. Then Khilaful Rashidin, meaning on the path of the Prophet ﷺ, it would return back, and obviously that time would be the time of probably be the time of Mehdi. Yeah, but in the meanwhile, what we could have, and I know me being a Sunni and someone who's Athari, it's very controversial. I'm going to say this, but we should have a model like I would say Iran.
Iran.
Yes. Yeah. And
I'm pleased somebody agrees
but that's
with
the
me.
most logical, rational thing to do, where you have best of all worlds. Let's put it that way. So we have, for example, we'll have a Islamic state, yeah, a Islamic state, and at the same time we'll have a civil state as well. We'll have certain parties competing with each other, yeah, to get into power. But the constitution of the country is Sharia. It is the book of Allah and the teaching and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, whichever party gets into power, their constitution is the Quran and Sunnah. So what they will be rivaling is how can they make people's life better? Like, for example, okay, one party says, all right, we'll give you more hospitals. The other one say we'll change the infrastructure. We'll give you better transportation links. The other one says, we'll give you more hospitals, etc. Yeah, but they cannot change the Sharia of Allah in any way. So, for example, if Allah says that this is haram, then that's haram. So there can be no usury. So in that state, the banking system cannot have usury whatsoever. All the so-called Muslim countries of the world, they all have usury, every single one of them. So usury needs to be abolished, yeah? So and obviously they will have like, I don't know, a 5-year term or something like that. And then obviously the people would be given, their votes will be considered a pledge of allegiance to a particular party, but whichever party gets into power, they have to submit to the Sharia.
Right.
And then you will have a committee of the ulama, which is the council, to make sure whichever, like for example, like you have Ayatollah Khamenei, whatever his name is, but you will have a group of ulama from all backgrounds, Sunni backgrounds, yeah. So there will be like you'll have them as a board, and they will make sure they will be like they will also act like the Houses of Lord. So any legislation that they pass or anything, they have to double check that it doesn't contrary with Islam in any way, the Quran or the Sunnah.
Okay. Yeah, just carry on.
So this is the model I've been talking about, and I believe that this is something that all of the Muslim countries in the world can adopt. And it will make their lives wonderful if they did that.
Yes, I suppose we'd have to allow them to adopt it in their own way, and somebody will have, I have a better idea and a different idea. I mean, I was really, if I could just quickly run by you what I have in mind for America. I mean, in the ideal situation, I mean, just supposing they wanted to do it, my idea would be basically for the U.S. Supreme Court to, well, the justices of the, to read the Quran and work out how many verses and are there that could be made into legislation. So it would be the commandments of Allah, right? To be made into legislation. And I've been asking all these Muslims, it's like, look, how many commandments are there in the Quran? And they all go really vague. So they haven't got a ready list, is what I mean.
I don't. You're right. I don't think there's anything like that in the that is around that someone's gone actually and done that body of work, meaning going through every single verse of the Quran, because obviously there are commandments in relation towards family members, your next of kin. There's commandments in relation to society. There's spiritual commandments about in terms of ritual worship. There's many stuff. And obviously they're clear. There are clearer stuff, like for example the rules of inheritance or certain penal codes, for example, of those who wage war and cause mischief in the earth. We've got examples of punishment to be given to those
Yeah, the
individuals.
crucifixion one.
Chopping the limbs from either ends, crucifying that person, or exiling them from the land. We've got punishment in relation to fornication, which is flogging, and also theft as well. So, and those are obviously clear in the Quran. So those can be easily deduced and taken out and say, yeah, these are clear commandments. In terms of, we call them had punishment.
The what punishment? Sorry.
So we call them in Islam had punishment.
Oh yes,
The
HUD.
had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it hudud?
Yeah, hudud. Yeah, and so hudud is the thingy, but we call them the had punishment. It's a punishment prescribed by Allah and His Messenger. So any punishment prescribed by Allah and His Messenger, we'll call it had or hudud. Yeah, and then we got something called tazir punishment, which is they're like supplementary or punishment in the sense that we know that Islamically this is not allowed, yeah, or this is sinful, but we don't have a clear text telling us in terms of what punishment we should give. Then what we do is we use ijtihad, and then the judge can give them any kind of punishment, if that makes sense. So, for example, we know regarding about zina, fornication, we know about adultery, but obviously there is a difference of opinion regarding about sodomy, yeah, because obviously we don't have clear text regarding that, yeah.
Oh, I would say 100 lashes.
Yeah. So that
But
could be
some
tazir punishment. And there's other things, like obviously we live in a modern state. So for example, if people just running red lights, what we're gonna do with them? Obviously, there's nothing in the Quran and Sunnah in relation to that. So
Yes.
then we have to obviously give them different types of punishment in relation to that. So that could be tazir, like even Vincent was saying. So what if I go and preach outside, in an Islamic state? What will happen to me? Are you going to kill me? So those people would be probably given like initially a fine, maybe, and then maybe imprisonment. Then they'll be told, you can't do this. If you want to do this, there's a regulated area over there. You can go there every Sundays and do what you need to do over there. Yeah.
Yes, because I was saying, there could be a designated part of the internet for these discussions to take place, and people can argue them.
I've said this as well. I would even have a place as well, because let me tell you, Muslims are not scared, to debate their ideas.
Yeah, I know. Because you win the arguments. I mean, I find it quite easy to win arguments, but using the, the values and the rules of the Quran. To the extent that Jews just won't engage anymore. They can't, they don't want to. It would be quite hard for them to prove that their Torah is better, is basically what I'm trying to say. It'd be quite hard for them to do it.
Yeah, and as you see, Claire, that even Daniel's finding it extremely hard to debate rabbis. No one wants to go next to him at all. You know, they keep him far away from him.
And
And
I think that Muslims should just keep saying, "Where are these rabbis? Where are these rabbis? Where are they?" To shame them into saying, "Surely, if your Torah is so wonderful, you can at least say how why it's correct." And actually,
and he's been like searching the internet like someone to debate him.
yeah, and Rabbi Misraki should be the one doing it, because he actually debated a Christian some years ago, and you can still see it on his YouTube channel. But it was basically with another Jew who converted to Christianity, and it was in a synagogue, because it was like, well, they don't really like to engage with Gentiles, because it's always been trouble for them, even if they win the argument, or especially if they win the argument.
So
So,
run me through your idea regarding about the Supreme Court in America. Why do you say that they would adopt this, them being a Christian country?
well, I mean, actually, America is not a Christian country. It has no religion. And I'm saying that is their problem. Because if you don't have a religion, Congress can basically make up the rules as they go along, and that's why marriage is gay, and children are encouraged to be transgender. Because imagine if you lived in America and you're a Jew and you say, "Oh, but the Torah says sodomites are to be executed." Congress would say, "Well, we're not Jewish." And if you're a Muslim saying, "Oh, we don't agree with all
Oh,
this
sorry, mate.
damn
Sorry, mate. That was my fault.
stuff,"
Sorry,
and
I'm just in the shop now.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and so Congress would say, "Well, we're not Muslim." So I'm saying they do have a problem. Nobody wants to acknowledge it, because to let things continue as they are in America is basically Americans trusting their corrupt and incompetent ruling classes to keep making up the rules as they go along. And I'm saying this is what has caused the decline and degeneracy of the West.
yeah, but the thing is, one would argue, like, for example, America, the vast majority of people in America are Christian, and therefore it's a Christian country.
Well, the thing is, there is a question mark over it, because basically we know that the Americans have separated the church from their state. And basically there is no official religion. So they can have, many kinds of Christians, and they never agree on anything.
Yeah,
The presidents all
but when
pretend
they
to be
say that,
Christian.
yeah, but when they said the founding forefathers of America were Christian, and therefore it's also a Christian country based on that as well.
But they don't have. The thing is, if you asked a Christian what are Christian principles, they wouldn't be able to say what they are. They might say the Ten Commandments, but actually it's Jewish. So they haven't got any original Christian principles. So basically, the structure of Christianity is basically for the absolute monarch to say to his subjects, "Shut up. If you're upset, pray to Jesus, but just obey the law of the land, and we'll let you live. But you have to obey the law of the land." And so if
I
you
guess
look at,
that's what the Bible says, in it. Give Caesar unto what is Caesar, and give God is what is unto God.
yeah, so if you wanted to base a theocracy based on the New Testament, you would have no rules at all to follow, because do we forgive adulteresses or not? According to the New Testament, is usury allowed or not? We don't even know, because nothing is stated clearly. So, the New Testament is not good enough as a legal guide for any society. And that's why they've been having problems for 500 years. And one of my arguments is that, maybe about the Nicene Creed, and Constantine
Yeah,
calling,
yeah,
the bishops to Nicaea to agree on doctrine, and they couldn't even do that.
yeah. I believe it happened about 300 years after the death of Jesus. Nicene Creed. Obviously,
Exactly, in the year
because there was still
325.
yeah, because there was still debating regarding about the divinity of Jesus.
Yeah, because they had the Arians saying um, Jesus is a bit divine, and we're happy with the idea, and there were the Trinitarians who were um, represented by Athanasius, who said no, it's got to be the Trinity, because if
Yeah.
it's not the Trinity, there's going to be a problem, because then the Jew. This is my theory anyway. I mean, the Trinity had to be the Trinity because Athanasius anticipated that the Jews would say, so your Jesus is the Son of our God, is he? And the Christians would have to say yes. And the Jew would say, well, our God, the God of Israel, is more powerful than your crucified Jesus, who's only his son. Without the Father, there would be no Son. So we have the more powerful God, and we win.
Yeah. But you know that, mind you, like for the first up to first, second, third century, there were early Christian like the Ebionites who basically they were just like the Muslims of today. They actually did not believe in the divinity of Christ, and basically they just believed that Jesus was like a messenger and a prophet. They also kept the law as well, the Mosaic law.
Well, I mean, you could look upon Christianity as a kind of practical joke by Allah. Like, let these idolaters just do what they want and see what happens to them. And this is what has happened to them. Us is what has happened to these idolaters who keep making up the rules as they go along, which is, basically the history of Christianity.
Right, clear. Again, apologize, my dear, but I'm gonna have to go now. Just got back
Okay.
home, and I'm going to turn in for the night as well. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate this conversation with you.
Thank you for dropping by.
Thank
and,
you.
and, and and for your very knowledgeable discourse. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Anybody want to join me?
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Good night. All right. I think the answer is no.